I only have 2 rounds left, so we're good. Got to be done. Yo, good afternoon. Welcome to the Stochastic.com MLB Deeper Dive. I'm Dave Loughran, _D, joined by Eric Lindquist at Eric Lindquist, talking a little 11-game action. Early start today, as we always do when we got 10-plus games. We'll make sure to get through all of them. Clearly looking at, Max Scherzer at the top against an Oakland team that has a 3-run implied total, but a whole lot of other interesting stuff that we're going to dive into. So happy to have you guys with us. Eric joining me again while Adam takes his hiatus. What's going on, brother?
Not much, just running it back. Good to get some of the kinks out. Yesterday, it was one of those things where I realized why Adam talks so fast, because you have to just bullet through it. And I've done a lot of deeper dives where I've had Adam as the analyst and I've talked through everything, but gave me a new respect for Adam, but I had 0 to begin with. So it's nice to have a little bit at this point in time.
You get in, like, host and analyst will get in a rhythm over, like, because I've been doing that with this show with Adam for what, like
84 years.
A long time. I don't know how long, but at least 5 or 6 years. And then it just kind of becomes second nature. But you're right. Like, dude, I did live before lock with Greg for basketball earlier this year. And I felt lost because the format is entirely different. Like, it's so much different than the deeper dive. The strategy show, there's no real time constraints on that or anything. So yeah, it's a totally different game. I thought you did a good job though. We got in and out on time, maybe a couple minutes late, but that's not like Adam and I aren't usually a couple minutes late anyway.
Never. I've never seen that happen one time ever, but we've done enough NFL shows that I think we'll be in a rhythm pretty quickly, but ended up being an interesting slate yesterday. Got my Cole Reagan start that I was looking for, was way over the field, but of course then Pablo Reyes hits a walk-off grand slam that never should have happened because Luis Urias completely goes over the plate with his bat. They end up calling it a walk. Of course, he hits a grand slam at 15%, but you know what was beautiful? Our guy, Jake Hari, had a phenomenal night. So a lot of stochastic avatars at the top of contests yesterday. It was a beautiful thing.
You love to see it, man. Yeah. We talked extensively about Reagan's, and I don't think anybody anticipated that start coming at all, but it was a hell of a start. Boston ended up dropping 4 runs in the 9th, but aside from that, he wasn't in at that point. It was a fantastic start. So, hey, you take those, but I'll tell you what, I mean, you're kind of burying the lead here, right? Spencer Strider got rocked and didn't get out of the third inning.
Yeah, so, I mean, he was my second highest owned pitcher when it all came through. Had Freddie Peralta still as 1. He was good chalk, and he just completely set the slate on fire. I was way over on Gavin Williams, too. You just basically needed to have the Brewers with an Alonso one-off. If you had Brewers with an Alonso one-off in bulk, you were in good shape. And hey, that's where the data was kind of pointing you yesterday here at Stochastic. I needed more of the Alonso one-off. It's ironic, too, because he was in my single entry team and it barely cashed. But it's just one of those beautiful days of baseball where if you've got the Sims tool, you've got a leg up on the field, and it's starting to show more and more every single week.
Yeah, can't wait for football when we release that monster.
How'd your draft finish up?
What's that?
How'd your draft finish up?
We're good. We're good. It's
Okay.
like, dude, you know how it's always tough. If you're trying to multitask and do a best ball draft, you think it's easy. It's not.
No.
It's not at all. Um, like you'll end up, I know this happened to you yesterday, where you'll queue a guy up for your stack, but you'll queue a guy up that you intend on taking like 7 rounds later, but you don't want to forget him.
Always QBs.
And the next round you end up taking him. So I didn't do
No.
that. I actually went robust running. I went 2 heavy, like second and third round running back, first round receiver, and then just onslaught receivers after that. Lamar Jackson slipped to like 50 something.
We only have 11 games here, and I'm curious because I do want to pick your brain about this. And I know a lot of people here are tuning into every show, MLB, NBA, NFL, doesn't matter. They just want to get good information. Is there anybody you're absolutely staying away from entirely in the first 2 or 3 rounds? Because I just realized I have 1 share of Saquon Barkley in DraftKings in like 65 drafts.
I have little Barkley, but not intentionally. Like I think Barkley.
Yeah, it's not intentional.
Yeah, phenomenal. The one guy I have very little of, and I actually drafted him here because I'm trying to, like, I think it's always a bad idea to just be like, I'm out on this guy,
Right.
like a top 5 round guy.
Agreed.
Because they're going, a lot of people out there are smarter than myself. If their ADP in August is coming in the 3rd round, I should probably have some of them. So Ramondre Stevenson, but I just think that's always a volatile backfield. And I'm still not convinced they don't bring somebody else in. Like you just saw Kareem Hunt was expected to land with the Saints. Now he's going to the Colts. He might be with the Colts by the time this show is over. So
what? Did that just happen?
Yeah, like an hour or so ago. Now he's on his way to visit the Colts. He could be on the Colts. So yeah.
I've been in the MLB lab. I have to put my phone on airplane mode at this point in time, or I don't focus as much. It's a whole thing. I just want to do all of the sports all at once, all of the time. And so, yeah, I just thought I'd focus in on MLB. Completely missed that little nugget.
One guy I have way too much of is Tyreek Hill, though. Way too much.
One guy
I'm actually okay with it.
I love Tyreek Hill this year. I think I have him number 4. I think Gajeski's got him at 4 or 5 as well. Bijan Robinson is somebody for underdog purposes I have an absolute metric ton of.
I have none of him on draft. I have 2 of him.
See, on DraftKings it's different.
Lineups.
I think on DraftKings it's different simply because I don't know what Desmond Ridder is going to be doing. I got to imagine they're going to try to find some way to make Kyle Pitts relevant again, right? Can we get it 1 year, Kyle Pitts?
You would hope so. Maybe it's Mac Hollins. Dude put on like 80 pounds of muscle in the offseason, so it's possible, but
man,
we'll see. Anyway.
Who's your last round favorite pick?
Jelani Woods.
I love Jelani Woods. We have the same one, tight end. Beautiful.
Really? Yeah.
We talked about him a little bit yesterday before the show. Anytime you can get just a pure freak of an athlete like that,
exactly,
as somebody who could just do it, and he's going to be on the field because they put 48 tight ends on the field every single game, so is what it is.
And like Mo Alley Cox and Kylan Granson don't worry me all that much.
Kylan Granson's so disappointing. I got him in Dynasty.
Time to talk some baseball. Happy to have you guys with us. Hey, if you haven't done so yet, take a single second, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel as well. All that stuff goes a long way for us, for real, though. So if you have a second of your time, you want to make it a little bit easier, life a little easier for us, help us keep the lights on around here so we can keep doing free content. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll be on our way. Atlanta and Pittsburgh, let's just dive straight into it, man. And by the way, we got 11 games. There's going to be some games we just don't spend a lot of time on. With larger slates, that's generally the case. You being in the analyst chair, I'll tell you right now, don't feel like you have to go deep into analysis with certain games. If like there are plenty of times where Josh and Adam are just like, yeah, I'm not touching this pitcher. You know what I mean? Or like, I don't like this team. It allows us to spend more time on some of the teams that are more appealing or more interesting at the very least. So just throwing it out there. I know you know how to do your job.
Love it.
You know what I mean?
No, I was going to say, you've been doing this double the time that I have, and always good to get notes before the show starts in front of, a couple hundred people live. It's always good, but I'm ready to rock.
Let's do it, man. Atlanta and Pittsburgh. We'll start on this one. Atlanta, big favorites. No surprise. Yanni Chirinos, though, on the mound going up against Mitch Keller. 10-run total at PNC Park, though. How about that? I mean, that's pretty significant. We have Atlanta as well in the top stacks tool with the highest top stack probability at 12.2%. Listen, this is one where I want to pick your brain on this, and I'm sure everybody watching is probably waiting for this very same analysis because I think it's super important. we all know that Atlanta can just go out there and rain down runs no matter the park. And also, Mitch Keller has struggled recently. He's been better at home for obvious reasons, but he has struggled. What do you make of the massive top stack probability compared to the field for Atlanta against a guy who struggled, but is still a pretty decent pitcher?
Yeah, Mitch Keller has kind of an interesting situation before us, because if you just blocked out his last couple starts, you're talking about a guy with a 33.6% hard hit percentage, a 25.4% K rate, a really good four-seam cutter kind of combination that he's putting together. He's top, 95th percentile in terms of across the board, and just fastball spin, certain things that just shouldn't be leading to the kind of outings that you've seen of him of late. But the problem is that you've now seen a little bit of a dip in velocity. You've now seen 6, 8, and 8 runs in the last, or 3 of his last 4. He's having to wear it when he doesn't have it. Pittsburgh's basically played themselves into irrelevant territory at this point in time. And I got to expect that, maybe they'll give him a little bit more of a quick hook in a situation like this, but his fastball is now down 2 miles per hour from 2022 to 2023 on the entire average, which is pretty wild because he's had way more success this season than what we had seen in previous years. 5.65 expected ERA, 4.23 expected ERA last year, down to 3.95 here. But I just don't trust it to continue based on what we've seen here lately. And Atlanta has positive leverage. They are just the best team in baseball against righties with a 119 WRC plus, and by far the best power team in baseball against righties with a 225 ISO on the aggregate. They have a guy named Matt Olson. He's kind of good. Austin Riley, Ozzy Albies, Ronald Acuna. It's really hard for me to get away on an 11-game slate from a positively leveraged Atlanta team.
I get it. Yeah. The one thing with them is you're just always going to have to pay for Atlanta. Like you're never going to get good value on them, but I guess good value is relative when it's arguably the best offense in baseball.
Well, the other thing, it's relative to the pitching that you have on the slate. And we have a very clear-cut spot with Max Scherzer, but then you have Lucas Giolito. I don't feel comfortable clicking that button. I don't think a lot of people do. Framber Valdez, we saw what that upside is last start, but we also saw the downside 2 starts ago, 3 2/3, gave up 6 earned, had not given up. He was averaging 5 earned over the course of his 3 previous leading into that no-hitter. He's now facing a very potent Baltimore offense. I think compared to yesterday, where we had so many pitching options and it felt very clear-cut to combine Peralta, Strider with that of Cole Ragans, and that was just kind of my all-in move. I was able to get back a little bit in profit, but was Milwaukee away from really jamming. I don't think we have that kind of security, and that's why we're seeing ownership coming in on the JP Sears tiers, the Wade Miley tier. I think Atlanta makes way more sense on a slate like this, where there isn't that clear-cut pitching with clear-cut K upside outside of Max Scherzer. And, everything in MLB DFS, the reason you tune in every single day is because things change. I think the big, huge changing point of this slate from yesterday is that Atlanta is way easier for me to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we could have a conversation. We could have had a conversation on Mitch Keller if he was like 7,500 at 1% owned, but he's almost $9,000. I mean, that really takes some shine off of it if you were trying to get different when you're paying almost $9K for him against the Atlanta Braves. I don't think there's a ton to talk about here unless you see something I don't.
No, it's Braves. Yanni Chirinos isn't very interesting to me in any way, shape, or form. We're seeing him play up to 75 pitches. I'm assuming he probably has the leash to get up to 80, 85 here at 6,500. Does that enter him into the fray against Pittsburgh? Maybe slightly, but I don't really find the K upside to be there. I think there are some interesting lefties we can get to on the Pittsburgh side. Brian Reynolds, switch hitter. Jack Sawinski, just been crazy power all season, over a 500 expected slugging. And then just some salary savers that can kind of make that stack work if you want to go that direction. I think, it's going to be mainly Atlanta that everybody's keying in on there, but there's some definite interest I have in certain specific Pittsburgh bats.
All right, so this next game then, where you've got Houston and Baltimore, you have Framber Valdez, Grayson Rodriguez, 8.5 run total. Houston minus 130 on the road. So Max Scherzer is the clear, and I know I've seen this comment in chat a lot lately, and they're not wrong, that a lot of these, kind of marquee pitching options on slates recently have gotten tuned up. It's the way it goes. That's baseball. It's going to happen. Max Scherzer, though, against Oakland in Oakland is objectively the best spot that you're going to find on this slate. Whether you want to fade that to be different is fine, but it is the best spot on this slate for a pitcher. Once you get to somebody like Framber Valdez, we do have him with a 17% top two pitcher probability on DraftKings, 13% ownership. There is some positive leverage there, but you're paying more for him than you're paying for Max Scherzer. So if you're getting to him, the argument is just like, hey, I want to be really, really different and pay more for pay more than Scherzer, who's facing Oakland.
Yeah, I mean, he ends up being the positively leveraged guy, but you have to compare him to Max Scherzer and just kind of know that there's no doubt that Max Scherzer has the higher K projection for a very strong reason. Between matchup, between bullpen, between matchup, between ballpark, everything across the board is just kind of screaming way more Max Scherzer. He's showing up in the Sims tool a lot more. But if you're playing single entry, if you're playing 3 max, one of the ways that you can take chalkier stacks and just change it up is find that $200 and get up to Framber Valdez, because I don't think it changes. I mean, I don't think we're going to see a no-hitter type ceiling, because we just saw his ceiling and 7 Ks over the course of 9 innings of work. I don't want to take anything away from him there, but this is a very different situation for me. You're looking at a Baltimore spot where the wind is blowing out, even if it is to right field. So, guys who are pulling the ball towards left field in that ballpark, it's a much more difficult ballpark to hit out of now. Very difficult on righty power, but he's already a pretty good ground ball pitcher. We've seen ground ball rates north of 60%. He's sitting around 55% this season. It's just a 26% K rate. And then comparing that to Scherzer against Oakland with a 27.5% K rate, they're just apples and oranges when you're looking at a 21.5% strikeout rate against lefties for Baltimore.
So then how much are you going to get to of Framber Valdez?
I think he's just kind of getting squeaked out. And maybe this is a reason that I should be focused in on him from a 3 max perspective, but I have almost none at the moment. It's not that he isn't a really good option. He's got positive leverage. He's got a 16.2% top 2 percentage, 13.6% ownership. It just seems like Max Scherzer is being a shove play, just like, we had yesterday with Freddie Peralta, where it was just such a good spot against Colorado. You're looking at a 7.5K prop across the industry, juiced on the over. It's a really fantastic spot to be on Max Scherzer yet again. You could have said that, I guess, against Pittsburgh, but we talked about some of the reasons where there was a path for Spencer Strider giving up the hard contact that he does from time to time, and then the fly ball rate and things of that nature in that ballpark against some lefties where he could get in trouble. He got babbicked a little bit, got into some issues where I think he was trying to put guys away in a different way, rather than just, maybe hugging on the corners. He just relied on his stuff a little bit more. But looking at the data today, I mean, Max Scherzer nearly double the chance to be a top 2 pitcher. Hard for me to get away from that when stacks, there's just too many options there to get different, that I don't think I have to get that different by getting to too much Valdez.
Malachor, you're right. Yeah, Josh took second place yesterday too.
Yeah, it's beautiful stuff.
For 25K. Yeah.
Yeah, we had Jake Hari 5K in the $3 I saw. That was good stuff.
Yeah. I know Josh was shouting out the lineup simulator this morning
Nice.
as a result of the $25,000. You like to see it. Chris Williams, good call, man. I missed that. Thank you. As always, Chris has just been gifting Stochastic memberships here on YouTube every single day, and we're appreciative for it. Make sure to say thank you if he hits you with one. We appreciate you, dude. And I had missed that. Yeah. And thanks, David. Yeah. No, this setup was not expensive to do at all. It's not. If you get the lighting right, you can make anything look good. You know what I mean? Not to say that it's a bad setup, but like you can do this at a very affordable price. I can assure you of that.
Or in the Holiday Inn Express, where I've been now for, however many years. That's a joke.
Yeah, well, what you just told me, that's not going to last much longer.
No, it's not. 1 week from today, I will be in a new setup, in a new spot. It's going to be awesome. Thank you, Jordan Klein. See you soon.
Yeah. Jordan Klein, what experience do you have building out a studio? Oh, got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Being a good friend and stuff. Good friend and coworker. What a
Do you
combo.
like Grayson Rodriguez at all?
No, I can't get to Grayson Rodriguez pretty much ever. I like the stuff. It's not that I don't like the stuff. And I think that there's at least a case to be made to try to just find ways to find some of these mid-level pitchers, because what is the opportunity cost? It's JP Sears, Wade Miley, and Grayson Rodriguez is the popular option for these guys. I know JP Sears has a top 2 percentage, and we'll get to him because I am blown away by his ownership at the moment, but Grayson Rodriguez kind of falls into that boat as well. I would much rather 6,900 find ways to get to Clark Schmidt against the White Sox. I would rather find ways to get to, well, I guess that's kind of where my lineups are landing as I'm looking at it here. I do have some Brandon Pfaadt. I can't believe that that's even a thing. Touki Toussaint for way cheap, but I'm just not landing on Grayson Rodriguez. I've just kind of realized 48.2% hard hit percentage. You get another lefty in Yordan Alvarez, who happens to be, I think, the best lefty in baseball. Going to be a difficult spot here with the wind blowing out 10 miles per hour. There's an immense downside for him to be the 4th most popular pitcher on the slate.
How about bats in this game then? Just pulling out, you look at the top stack tool, and Houston has a 4.8 top stack probability, which I should point out, you have a few teams at the top, and then it's just, as we see a lot of times with these huge slates, it's really flat. Like there's got to be 10, 12 teams from 3 to 5% top stack probability. So nothing that stands out in a big way. Houston's at 4.8%. Baltimore's at 2%. So they're way down there against Framber Valdez, but Houston bats against Rodriguez. Does that intrigue you at all? Just knowing that while he has looked better since he came back, he's definitely had some struggles early on.
Yeah, and I think what makes me more excited is just having that extra lefty. One of my favorite combos, and traditionally, I've always kind of done the hand builded for my single entry for my 3 max stuff, but now building out 150 and things like the $3, it's changed a little bit of how I think things are going to turn out. But he's had a lefty problem all season long, giving up 8 homers to lefties in just 25 2/3 innings against them, as opposed to 5 in 42 innings against righties. Looking at Kyle Tucker, looking at Yordan Alvarez, those are 2 massive bats with massive upside against Grayson Rodriguez, a 1.83 whip against lefties as well. It's been a little bit of a problem. It's been a lot of bit of a problem with the wind blowing out to right. One of my favorite one-off plays of the day, well, 2 of them, Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez, I just have an absolute metric ton of.
Let's talk about the Cubs and the Mets then. So you got the Cubs with Jameson Taillon and then Carlos Carrasco on the other side. Look, there was a time, you remember, there was a time where Carlos Carrasco was a nice pitcher, good fantasy pitcher as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that did exist. You know, he had some seasons flirting with 30% strikeout rates across the whole year. He's at 14.9%. His K minus BB rate this year is 5.4%. Those are appalling numbers. They really are. And it doesn't get any better. Like his swinging strike rate sits at 10.7, but he's just not closing out these plate appearances for opposing. Like I don't really know what to say about him here outside of he's been a tough guy to roster and have any confidence in lately. No surprise he's getting very little ownership in this game. Taillon's getting 5% against the Mets, but this isn't a spot where you're playing these guys. The only reason you play them is because they're cheap, and even that's not going to feel good.
Yeah, and I will say this too. I think this is one of my things I couldn't believe. Omar Narvaez is one of the worst catching pitchers that you could possibly ever have behind the dish. He has one of the weakest arms amongst any catchers. These guys on the Cubs side should be able to run and do it pretty effectively against Carrasco and Pham today. I am definitely going to have a ton of Cubs. I know that it's a team that it just makes sense. Carlos Carrasco, an 11.2% barrel percentage. There should be some speed upside here in this matchup as well. You look across the board relative to other pitchers on the slate, and 5.13 xFIP, 6.62 expected ERA. I mean, there's just nothing good to say about Carlos Carrasco other than, hey, he's a cancer survivor, happy that he's doing healthy and everything's great there. But my God, it's just been abysmal here of late. I don't expect for that to be an outlier thing. He should continue to be bad.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, never mind.
What?
I agree. I agree with you.
What are you going to do? Where were we going to go with that?
Not you don't want to know.
Okay. You're a sick person.
I'm not a sick person. I'm just, I know when to, I know when to pull the emergency exit on myself. I'd pull that door wide open and jump out.
See, that's the difference. Like Josh would just be like, "No, now you're going to say it," or he would say something equally
For
as
sure.
insane.
For
Yeah,
sure. But you're not gonna pull that out of me.
no, that's fine.
It wasn't, dude, honestly, it wasn't even anything particularly bad, but whatever. Chicago Cubs and the Mets, though, when it comes to these bats, I mean, Carrasco, there's zero strikeout upside here, but also he is allowing power. I mean, 1.77 home runs per nine for Carrasco this year. That's not pretty whatsoever. And then outside of that, lefties 191 x ISO, righties 251 expected ISO, 254 actual ISO, 387 x WOBA for same-handed bats. And even while he's allowing less power to lefties, 387 x WOBA. Like he's flirting with 400 against both sides of the plate here.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, we should just have some of them. And I understand they're the most negatively leveraged team on the board here today. And chalk fails all the time in MLB DFS. But even as I've been messing around with the Sims tool here, again, I'm going to be able to have plenty of time to go back in and revamp some stuff. It seems as though you can mix and match them, finding a pitcher or two different, getting away from the norm. And there are a number of paths to get away from it on a slate like this, where you have a popular JP Sears, popular guys in that regard. And I just find the Cubs to be not unfadeable, because no team is unfadeable in MLB DFS, but because of the steal upside, because you're getting Narvaez specifically in their catching today, I just have way more interest than I was anticipating on this Cubs team, because this just elevates their floor to another. They have more outs to hit their ceilings. They have guys that I wouldn't necessarily think are going to go. I mean, everybody outside of Yan Gomes is somebody capable of stealing bags for the Cubs. So 1 through 9, I have exposure to this team in a lot of different ways. You can kind of mix and match if you're hand building as well, using the ownership projections, and kind of know that, hey, I don't have to land on the chalkiest Cubs and I can still have an upside lineup.
Any interest in the Mets against Jameson Taillon?
Definitely.
Yeah. I think bats from this game are highly appealing, and pitchers, as we talked about, really aren't. But it is a 9.5 run total. It's tied for the third highest total on the slate.
I know this is kind of a both sides of it. And I know that sounds disgusting because it's Jameson Taillon, who I have been targeting all season long. But I just have to repeat that you have a chalky JP Sears. You have a chalky Wade Miley, Grayson Rodriguez. The opportunity cost is not high. And we're talking about a 4.9% leveraged, 3.5% owned Jameson Taillon against the Mets, 6,700. It's not a ton of strikeout stuff that you're going to get against the Mets. That's not necessarily why I'm landing there. But he's sub 7K. He allows for me to get different off of all the ownership that's coming in at pitchers like Clark Schmidt, Cutter Crawford, guys that I like more. I like both of those guys more than him, but he's 6,700 and gives me that opportunity to roster Cubs, to roster some of these other chalky offenses that I do have interesting ways of being able to stack up and getting different with. And he's got a 20.2% K rate. That's not all that impressive, but there's a path against this Mets team that still in the bottom half of this lineup does have strikeouts available in it, with Ventos, who's at nearly 30%, Abraham Almonte, 32.4%. Narvaez never strikes out, but Rafael Ortega, 28.6%. I got to be getting to a little bit of Taillon, considering he's that low owned.
Okay.
It's not a great play. It's just, it's different for the sake of being different and getting to better bats.
For sure. But yeah, Cubs 4th highest top stack probability in the top stack tool right now. Looks pretty good. I think, matter of fact, I think they're 3rd in stack score as well. Yeah, we have them 3rd in stack score behind the Yankees and Boston against Carrasco. And then the Mets are like 10th or something. They don't look bad either. But they also have one of the best value scores, the New York Mets do. Some of those bat prices have come down a little bit. Talk about KC and Boston. Shout out to you guys. About to eclipse 100 likes. We're at 88. Eric, if you have not done so yet, I would politely request you hit that. There we go. That's 89. Jordan, as a producer, I would assume you walk in here, they immediately just tap that thumbs up. But sometimes you need to be reminded. It's okay. I say it all the time. We got busy lives. People forget things. I told Josh all the time, man. That's why, like, you think you're going to beat a kid in one of those match games where you turn all the cards over, and if you have to match them, try and beat a fucking 5-year-old in one of those games. They'll wipe the floor with you.
Well, how about the Rubik's Cubes elementary school kids? You had a Rubik's Cube once upon a time.
I was pretty quick. I wasn't like,
you were pretty good with it.
I wasn't Rubik's Cube fast to the point where it's like, who are your friends? I don't have any, but yeah, no, I was like a minute, which isn't bad, but like some
really
people
good.
are like 6 seconds, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But for me,
exactly.
Yeah. With a blindfold, me being average intelligence, a minute, I was pretty proud of that. But yeah, dude, it's just a few like algorithm. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can teach her by the time she's 3. No, I'm joking.
I'm not. I don't completely put it past it. I've seen
zero chance.
Well, we've got the Mozarts, the Tiger Woods of the world. You never know.
That's true. That's true. I make her practice the piano 4 hours a day. She's 2 years old, but yeah, there you go. Nice. Yeah. I take her feet and I strap them around the bench.
Piano's the coolest thing. I didn't get into it until I was like 19. We had one in our living room growing up. I just never played. And then they make you take a music class when you're a student athlete. Like they force you to. It's the dumbest thing ever. And then I absolutely loved it. I was like, I'm going to play piano all the time. And so, if I could go back in time and do one thing earlier, it would be learn piano when I'm 3-4 years old.
You don't really think I make her practice 4 hours a day?
Yeah, I do. Just whip her hands.
Torture. Yeah, I got
4 hours.
Right.
I mean, I had a feeling that was maybe a little hyperbole, but
yeah, no, she doesn't play it. She'll play whatever she wants. I got a guitar, drum set, bass, all that stuff in here. So I mean, that's what I've always liked. But any instrument, dude. Yeah,
nice, dude.
But not if you hate it. If you hate it, it's like, But we'll see. Let her do what she wants, and then like support it.
How about be a stripper?
I mean, that is really inappropriate.
You said let her do whatever she wants.
That dude, I'm telling you right now, there's some dudes in chat that have daughters and they're like, man, Eric's an asshole.
Oh no, it's just I'm trying to be the Adam role.
Well, guys, it's been a good show. I think I'm gonna go.
Don't hurt me.
All right. Yeah, no, to your question. Kansas City and Boston. Let's get into this one a little bit. So you have Brandon Singer, Cutter Crawford, 10-run total in Boston. This is another one of those games where you've got some high totals. I mean, the Boston Red Sox have a 6-run implied total right now. Kansas City, not great, but 4.7 too. 4.7 for Kansas City, 7th highest top stack score. But Boston stands out in myriad ways here. 2nd highest top stack probability behind only Atlanta against Singer at Fenway Park. Do we need to spend a lot of time on pitchers here, or do you want to talk back? I mean, feel free, but I don't know how much.
It's kind of one of those spots, no doubt about it, where Brady Singer, he's 0.5% owned. There's no opportunity cost on this slate specifically. 400 going his direction against Boston. It's obviously a difficult spot. There's obviously a lot of good lefties in that lineup, but I do think we're starting to see the better form of Brady Singer that's starting to show up, velocity ticking back up. We've seen 9 and 10 Ks from him here of late as well. It's a difficult spot against Boston in this ballpark, but I still have some exposure to him at 4 or 5% of my lineups in my first initial build. I'd be okay getting to some Brady Singer. I'm far more inclined to get to Boston, but I think everybody else would be too. And they're pulling all the ownership and all the land on this slate. So what's the way that they fail? Brady Singer has a decent ball game, and the strikeout stuff, I mean, that isn't necessarily the reason that things have gone south for him. A 50.8% hard hit percentage. Yeah, 20% isn't nearly as good as what we were hoping, as he's continued to get better. A 3.23 ERA last season turning into 5.10, but I still have some Brady Singer interest.
Okay. Do you have bats interest in this game? I know you and I were definitely both, not to say like, oh, no interest in Boston yesterday, because that wasn't the case. It was more so like, hey, the other side, we're completely ignoring Cole Reagans, and this is not the worst spot in the world, and he's flashed some strikeout upside. Do you like the Boston bats tonight?
Yes and no. They are extremely popular. They're in a good spot against a guy who gives up a ton of hard contact. The lefties are specifically in a really, really good spot, but negative leverage, there's 11 games. There's a lot of places to go. You have Atlanta with a higher top stack score. If you don't play Scherzer, it's pretty easy to stack up Atlanta and get whatever combination of pitchers that you really want to get to if you're not playing the Scherzer-Valdez combination. I feel as though Boston's a team that I'm going to end up shorting, but at the end of the day, it's whatever pops up in the Sims tool and being able to just understand that, like, yeah, if I'm going to play Boston, I'm probably going to have to play some really low-owned pitching alongside of it. I'd be okay with that if you're hand building and playing in 3-max stuff. But for the most part, it's a team that I don't expect to have a lot of at this kind of ownership.
Okay. Do you have Kansas City ownership, like significant KC ownership against Boston? There is some pop throughout this lineup.
Yeah, there is pop at the top of it there for sure, but Cutter Crawford's good. 290 xWOBA, 36.1% hard hit percentage. He does have an 8.8% barrel percentage, so there are opportunities for guys like Maikel Garcia, Bobby Witt, Michael Massey, Sal Perez, and MJ Melendez. I mean, that top 5 is still very serviceable. All guys with over 400 expected sluggings. Even Edward Olivares, you don't necessarily want to sleep on. 266 expected batting average, 435 expected slugging, but it's just a game that with Cutter Crawford, I'm more inclined to be playing that side of it. And then, Boston, I think a lot of people would like to play those bats, but it's going to be kind of an ownership fade more than likely for me.
Okay. Let's talk about Toronto and Cleveland then. We can move this. We can move this one forward. Making pretty good time.
Yeah, look at that.
You say Kikuchi, Tanner Bibby, sorry. Ridiculous name. 8 run
is
total.
Is it Bibby? Is it really?
Yeah.
I had no clue.
Adam told me like a couple months ago. I was like, that can't be right. And it is. Yeah. Tanner Bibby.
That
Bibby
seems make-believe.
Sounds better. But
well, he's a dude with like goggles. He probably got, picked on once upon a time. But then he's a Major League Baseball pitcher. That seems like a good thing to be in life.
I would say it's yeah. You could have a worse lot in life for sure. Yeah.
That's for sure.
As you would say, your daughter could become a stripper.
Go back to that. I'm sorry, Loppy. That's not what I meant. It was an off-the-cuff conversation. Okay.
You say Kikuchi and Tanner Bibby. Do you? I mean, God, I don't know. I mean, you have ownership going to Kikuchi. My only issue is that Cleveland, and I know that Ramirez isn't in the lineup dealing with that suspension, but Cleveland is still a low strikeout rate team. So very low, lowest in the league versus lefties and righties alike. So it's more so like, does Kikuchi go deep enough into this game, limit runs, and hopefully rack up a handful of strikeouts? Because it really is hard to come out there and just generate a ton of swings and misses against this Guardians lineup.
Yeah, it is. But you're also looking at today's starters, guys who are relevant for today's slate. It's Max Scherzer, obviously, who leads in terms of K rate. Grayson Rodriguez. Kikuchi isn't too far behind. If you're looking at basically the identical K rate for him and Framber Valdez, it makes a lot of sense to try to get to a little bit of Kikuchi, considering there's just more ownership coming into some of these other guys.
Wait, Jose Ramirez is in the lineup? Sorry.
Everybody's just going nuts. Yeah, Jose Ramirez, he's appealing the suspension. So he was in yesterday.
Okay. I assumed he would not appeal because he punched somebody in the face. So my fault, my bad on that.
There weren't any cameras on it. I don't think anybody saw it.
Yeah, I just honestly just assumed that. So my fault. He's confirmed in the lineup today, which just makes this matchup worse for Kikuchi. But sorry to interrupt, but I had to correct myself there.
That is okay. I'm pretty positive that Jose Ramirez, important guy considering a sub 10% K rate. You'd be replacing him with I don't even know who would be the other third baseman. You'd probably move Andres Jimenez over and then play somebody else at second. They're gonna have to do it for a day. They have that Jose Tena character who can come in at some point in time who's on the bench. You can move somebody else around. But either way, for today's purposes, really tough at the top of this lineup with Juan, Jimenez, Ramirez. Those are the guys that if you're coming around and pitching well, you're going to face 3 times. You'd be shocked to get 2 strikeouts out of the combination of those 3. But then you still have Laureano, who's making his debut here, nearly a 30% K rate on the season. You got the Rocio individual, Gabriel Arias, who's striking out at a pretty high clip, north of 30% as well. There's a couple of spots there, and the strikeout stuff for a guy like Kikuchi can supersede some of the power issues he's had from time to time. And that's where I do think on a slate like this, I'm more inclined to roll the dice just because there's actual K stuff there. It doesn't exist with some of these other pitchers that are coming up as chalk. So I'm not a Kikuchi guy. I never have been. I think he's always been a little bit overrated, but 8,200 pulling 12.3% ownership. I'm okay getting to a little bit today.
Okay. What about Bybee on the other side against Toronto?
God, now that's going to mess with me. Bybee. There we go. He's got
Call him
positive,
whatever you want.
Yeah, no, he's got positive leverage. And I thought that the Toronto Blue Jays lineup kind of ruled out more favorably for Gavin Williams yesterday. Kind of alluded to that a little bit on the program, but as I started putting the numbers in, you have a Brandon Belt, nearly a 35% K rate now, batting second in this lineup that kind of happened out of nowhere. Maybe it happened while I was on break, but that's not something I had witnessed earlier this season. That's a strikeout bat that kind of just, it's weird to see up there in the 2-hole when, he's been buried to 5th almost all season long, but you got him, you got Varsho, Jansen, all of these guys north of 20%, Kevin Biggio, nearly 30%, and then Paul DeYoung in the 9-hole, nearly 30%. There are strikeouts here as well. So it might sound like, hey, does Eric like every pitcher on this slate? No, I just like getting over the field on some of these under-owned guys and getting short on the Wade Mileys, the JP Sears, those guys specifically. I just find an easier path to be able to play some of the Cubs chalk, some of the other good bats on today's slate with some under-owned pitching. And I think Bybee falls into that category as well.
As far as bats go, this is one of the lowest totals on the slate. Like, you have a 7.5 between Texas and Oakland. Mind you, most of that low total is attributed to the Oakland Athletics.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Sears has been terrible, but yeah, it's just one of these spots where pull up the top stack tool, look where everybody sits. We'll get your analysis too, but Toronto 4.6 run implied total. Cleveland is at 4. So again, understand why Kikuchi's getting ownership. There's no doubt there. Like, they have one of the I believe they have the 3rd lowest total on the slate, ahead of only Oakland at 3.1 and Colorado against Wade Miley at 3.9. So all of that is logical. What about bats though on either side?
Yeah, Ramirez is about it for me from the Guardian side of things. Probably not going to be falling into anybody else. Toronto, I think you can make a case for it just as a high upside offense on an 11-game slate. It's shorter than we generally have on a Tuesday where you're looking at 14 games. And I think a team like Toronto might fall by the wayside, but basically flat leverage coming in on them. You get some salary savers in your 5-man stacks. You get Whit Merrifield back in this lineup after taking the day off yesterday. Toronto, there's at least some upside that I can talk myself into from their side. But yeah, Cleveland, it's J Ram or bust.
So we've got what, 5 or 6 down? Let me see here. We got 5 down. We got 6 to go. Then coming up after this, you got Greg Ehrenberg, Neil Orfield, live before lock, taking you all the way up to first pitch. So make sure not to go anywhere. And if you didn't catch the new Hall of Fame segment in between shows yesterday, definitely stick around for that. We had a shit ton of huge winners throughout we're going to have some more after Josh and Jake and a bunch of other guys took some stuff down on yesterday's 8-game slate. So that's good stuff. And hey, if you're looking to get in on that, just rock the Stochastic avatar, stochastic.com/avatar. Download the avatar, use it on DraftKings, FanDuel, wherever it is you play, finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and get a free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum, $120 value. Get inducted into the Hall of Fame. We do the videos brand new every single week. Just send your screenshots, winning screenshots to us at Stochastic HOF on Twitter. And the cool thing is, like, people go, man, top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. That's impossible. No, we get them all. We give out a ton of free subs with Hall of Fame because you could enter the nickel or the quarter arcade, right? Like the mini, all of these. So many of the winners are playing low stakes. They're using the lineup generator. They're paying $4.48 for the first week of that. Link in the description, by the way, and in chat. $4.48 for the first week. They're fine tuning their process with the lineup generator. Or with the tools, but the lineup generator gets you in the door cheap, and then you get all the tools when you bank a contest, and you're in business. So Yeah, download the avatar. And if you want to check the lineup generator out, I say this with sincerity. I think it's the best low cost entry point and tool of any tool in the industry for less than 450 for the first week, Eric.
Yeah, bar none. Basically, if you guys don't understand that, these are us basically hand selecting some of the best lineups for you, using our data, using our tools, and being able to integrate it for you in a way where you can kind of just throw everything else that you think you know about MLB DFS out the window. You don't have to come in, aggregate projections. You don't have to try to, figure out exactly where the data is leading you on the pre-contest simulator. You get to just have lineups that have been curated that are basically like, yes, these are positive EV lineups, and you can gather a bunch of them together. You can save up to 20 at a time. Easy to integrate those into your 20 max contest. So yeah, you play the $4 every single day. No better way to start figuring out where the tools are taking you and why these lineups are coming together than to just check out the lineup generator at a very low cost.
For sure. Yeah, and you don't like lineups, discard them. Save the ones you like, see your exposures, upload it to CSV, set your own stack types. You can lock and swap players, but you guys know I always say, like, be careful with that. Don't override the process to the point where now you're just building your own lineups and wasting your money. But yeah, low stakes, mid stakes, doesn't matter. Short on time, plenty of time. This tool is a really awesome one. All right, let's talk about Colorado and Milwaukee. Kyle Freeland on the bump for Colorado. Wade Miley on the other side. 8.5 run total here. I mentioned to you, Colorado has a 3.9 run implied total. The funny thing about Wade Miley is that he's not a bad pitcher by any stretch. I mean, he's sitting. Look, has he been a little bit lucky this year? I think you could make an argument that he has. He has an 83% strand rate. That's, well above average. He has a 4.68 xFIP. None of that is amazing. Neither is his 17.5% K rate. But he's done a good job of limiting runs so far, and he's facing a terrible Rockies team. It's not in Coors Field. So I get why he's getting some ownership at the price point. The only question is, well, there's two questions that I have for you. One, can he go deep enough into this game? He threw 60 pitches after being on the IL for almost a month. That's significant now. Does he throw enough pitches? Can he go deep enough into this game? And can we get enough strikeouts for it to be worth it at 7K? And more specifically, 20% ownership.
It's such a tough ask. And this is probably the piece of chalk I've struggled with the most on this slate today. He's pulling a lot of ownership. It'd be one thing if Wade Miley was 5% and we were alluding to all of these problems. Wade Miley, the pitch count concern, it still exists there. I don't know what the ceiling looks like for him in a spot. He was rolling against Washington, 4 innings, only 1 earned, 60 pitches. Can he get north of 75, 80 pitches? So that's one way that he can fail. The other way he can fail is that he ends up just running into a bat or two, giving up some homers, because then 3, he's not going to make it up overall in strikeout stuff. I know his prop was inflated. It's around 5 now. It was sitting at 4.5 this morning. Now it's 5, 5.5 in some places. That's not a ton for a guy who's coming in as pretty extreme chalk. We now have him. I just refreshed it. He's the second highest owned pitcher on DraftKings today. He's got an 11.2% top 2 percentage. But there's no doubt that facing this particular version of the Colorado lineup with a 27.2% K rate against lefties, the highest mark in baseball, that there is an upside. But it feels as though the field is assuming multiple things are just going to work out for Wade Miley, whereas I'm not as secure with it. I could see this going very south for me based on what we just saw Freddie Peralta do against them. But I got to say, it's uncomfortable, and maybe the Sims tool will have something different, but I'm not getting to him at the moment.
Yeah, we saw what Peralta did, but Peralta has a 30% strikeout rate.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'm comparing apples and oranges a little bit, but it's one's a righty, one's a lefty.
No, and your point is just that the Colorado offense is so bad. I get where you're going with it. I'm just saying, like,
totally.
Miley could go 6 1-run innings and 3 strikeouts, and on paper, it's a great start. You get the win, but is it enough at 20%?
Yeah, and what makes Wade Miley at 7K different from, so now JP Sears is 4% lower owned than him against Texas. Yeah, Texas, they're opposite. They've got north of a run difference in terms of implied team total. That's an interesting spot still, though, to maybe take a shot on JP Sears in
Your
that
boy
ballpark
Brady
against
Singer is unowned at the same price.
unowned and unequivocally better stuff. Like, I don't think there's even a conversation to have comparing their actual stuff on paper. Brady Singer, the K rate from last season and the upside we saw in 2022, now starting to recapture a little of that form. I mean, again, Brady Singer is 0.5% owned. I don't understand why for what, $100 more than Sears or $400 more, that he's not at least pulling some ownership. And I get it's a matchup thing, but that just seems wrong to me. So yeah, give me the Brady Singers of the world. Give me the Cutter Crawfords of the world, the Clark Schmidts, all these other guys in the mid sevens on DK. Far more interesting to me. Wade Miley, I think, is more of a puzzle to figure out because he's not even pulling any ownership whatsoever on FanDuel. And the obvious reason why is the pitch count concerns. So why are people just looking to jam him on DK? I'm a little bit confused today.
It makes sense. Yeah. I mean, it's really just that Colorado's terrible.
Yeah.
It's the assumption. But on the other side, Kyle Freeland, 14.6% K rate on the season. He doesn't have to pitch at Coors, so I suppose that's a good thing, right? But
not necessarily, because he actually has worse numbers. I was going through this last night, and one of my favorite things is just paying attention to Colorado home road splits. At home this season, let me find the exact numbers here. At home this season, a 4.48 ERA, 1.46 whip, decent enough strikeout stuff away from Coors Field, north of a 5 ERA, 5.33 in 50 and 2/3 innings with a 1.48 whip. So, like, I don't know what to make of it. I think if you extend that sample size to infinity, he's going to be way worse at home. You would at least expect, but some pretty weird splits there for him to be reverse splits compared to Coors Field.
I wonder if it's because he's giving up 45% fly balls this year, where like Coors, I don't know, like some say Coors is pretty cavernous. It's not like from a home run perspective, it's not like you don't hit home runs in the altitude there, but I don't know. It's hard to say because he's allowing more home runs away from home this year. 1.8 home runs per 9 on the road. Yeah, good point. 1.4.
He's also in the NL West, which the schedule is more mitigated this season than in years past, but you're still seeing the Dodgers, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, the Giants more than normal. Those are all above average baseball teams.
Yeah. Yeah, but none of them outside of like maybe Chase Field, none of them super hitter friendly parks.
Dodger Stadium started to take off a little bit this year, but yeah, I'm totally with you. Totally with you.
All right. So what about these Milwaukee bats today against Freeland?
Just run it back. Run it back. Kyle Freeland confirmed not good. 357 xWOBA, 495 expected slugging. Not going to miss bats at all. Sub 15% K rate. You get the same guys. You get Yelich, Contreras. You have Mark Canha now added to this lineup. Tyrone Taylor. Bottom of the lineup, still enough power that it can get by. Victor Caratini, a decent catching option here for today. I think you can fire up some Milwaukee again. They're not going to be as underowned as yesterday. I mean, we saw Texas, pretty resounding chalk. Kansas City ended up as pretty resounding chalk out of the middle of nowhere. I do think people who played Milwaukee yesterday are going to run it back here, but in the tools right now, pretty flat leverage. You kind of know the specific bats you want to get to in Canha. Not a bad guy to have in there against any lefty, especially a bad lefty. So I'm pretty okay with running back Milwaukee for the people.
I don't see why you wouldn't be at this point. Yeah. What's their implied total sitting at? 5.3.
Normal.
Yeah. Sixth highest on the slate.
Yeah, it's a really good spot. And the Dodgers are way more expensive, albeit you get the offset in ownership there in a more difficult park in Chase Field with the humidifier and the roof closed and all of those things put together. But less chalky by far than the Cubs, than the Yankees, who we haven't gotten to yet, than the Red Sox. So Milwaukee, a pretty easy team to kind of mix and match into your lineups.
Let's get to the Yankees and the Cubs and the White Sox then. Sorry,
yeah.
Clark Schmidt, Tuca Toussaint, 2 righties on the mound. Yankees minus 166 here today. You had mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, you had some interest in Clark Schmidt. He's getting some ownership. He's the 5th highest owned guy. But again, I don't want to overstate like the 15% ownership, 5th highest owned pitcher, because it's Max Scherzer at around 40%. And then everybody else is pretty spread out. Like you have what, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 8 guys between 12 and 21% as well. So there's nothing crazy there outside of Scherzer. Clark Schmidt's really just in the middle of those guys that are pulling some ownership today.
Yeah, and Clark Schmidt, I think he's been extremely disappointing. I think everybody in chat would agree that, I know we have a lot of Yankees fans who tune in daily. Clark Schmidt, touted first rounder, had really good stuff at AAA, 3.51 expected ERA in a brief sample size last season. We saw some of the glimpses, 23.7% K rate, that was trending up. For me, it's more of just like a matchup deal, a price deal, and he's not pulling as much ownership as other players around him. You've got Kikuchi, Grayson Rodriguez, JP Sears, and Wade Miley all pulling more ownership than him at 7,100. And I would argue he's in probably the best spot in terms of matchup against the White Sox, especially this version of the White Sox lineup. You get rid of Jake Berger. That's one power bat you don't have to worry about. There's so many times where that's taken effect on certain pitchers. 83 WRC plus against righties on the season, just a 23.5% K rate. So nothing that's super hefty, although that is top 10, just sitting at 10th in baseball. But I think for me, Clark Schmidt just falls into the bucket of how many pitchers do we have that we can just get a little bit different with? Well, he's just another one of them.
Okay. Toussaint, he's getting, oh, wow. Both of these guys. Yep. Toussaint just because he's so cheap. And I guess even with Judge, the Yankees have struggled against righties. They still have some power, no question, but there's some strikeouts. WRC plus ranks bottom 10 in the league on the active roster against righties this year. But how about Toussaint being 15.7%, fourth highest owned pitcher on the slate? Massive negative leverage coming in on him if you're looking at our top pitchers tool, though.
Yeah, he's trailing up. And I think it makes sense to me. He's the cheapest one out of all of these guys. That gives you a little bit of safety where you can kind of get by, but it's a big enough slate. There's enough guys that we can still get to where I don't think I need to find these kind of savings on this slate at 5,700. The spot, this Yankees team is still going to be giving up some of that hard contact, but just a 92 WRC plus on the aggregate, given most of the season has been without Aaron Judge. He's kind of important to the baseball team. Have a 22.4% K rate. And as you go through individual hitters, yeah, there's definitely a path for it here. He's got north of that 50% ground ball rate and can definitely limit some of the power. He's down to a 5.6% barrel percentage after being 13 and 9.3 in 2020 and 2021 respectively. Started to figure some things out last year. That's carrying into this year, which is nice. But the one major thing, he's just walking so many dudes, and you can just see this line moving down the line. It's a pretty volatile piece of this slate, considering the price point can get you whatever you want, but I don't know if the upside is there in a way where I'm going to be landing on it at this ownership.
Yeah. Look, if you're just talking about leverage, it's unusual that you see somebody in our tool at like 16% ownership and 6% top 2 pitcher probability. Like that's now, Granted, he doesn't need to be a top 2 pitcher at 5,700 to be viable, right? That's for sure. Like you have Scherzer, you have Gilbert, you have Framber Valdez on this slate. You have Urias, who we'll talk about. Like there's some decent pitchers here, but yeah, that negative leverage doesn't look great, even at that price point. Who do you think your favorite pitcher is to pair with Scherzer?
Is it weird to say Brady Singer? It's a little weird to say Brady Singer. I'll go Cutter Crawford, 7,600.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, you like both pitchers from that game. 10-run total.
Yeah, go me. I'm good at this. Go team.
No, look, worked yesterday, right?
Yeah, it was basically seeing some signs that could be positive. I didn't expect that by any means. That was pretty ridiculous for him to go out and mow down 11, 12 Red Sox. I don't expect Brady Singer to continue doing what he's been doing either, but at least the signs are there. The velo seems to be back in a pretty decent enough way where, again, I just don't find anybody to like. Wade Miley's obviously in the best spot, but he's got really bad strikeout stuff. We can go through and poke holes in just about everybody who's chalky. So why not just play the lower owned guys?
How about bats on either side of this one? I mean, if Toussaint's that popular, do the Yankee bats stand out to you at all? Because they do have the fourth highest top stack probability on the slate. They rank, I think, number 1 in stack score for us today ahead of every other team.
Pretty wild. I get it, because you compare some expensive bats with some cheapies. You get the Judge piece. That's a very important piece to have in this lineup. I think what sucks about the Yankees is you have 5 batters that are outfield only eligible. It is so hard to find ways to stack this team up that's unique without just rotating through guys in the outfield. You have a catcher option. You can play Jake Bauers outfield or first base. You have Gleyber Torres second base only. You have Volpe shortstop only. A lot of Yankee stacks are going to look identical to other Yankee stacks, which kind of leads me away from this team. I'm falling more into the category where I'm comfortable with Cubs chalk. I'm comfortable with the, well, not the Boston chalk necessarily. I'm going to be shorting that one for sure. It seems like, based on my early sim stuff, but Atlanta, I think I'm just going to be finding paths to them more, even against Mitch Keller. And I don't have to be worried about stuff like having identical lineups to everybody else. So yeah, Yankees lineups, you're just going to be rotating through outfielders, but that doesn't feel like what I want to be doing on an 11 game slate. So I'm probably going to be underweight.
San Francisco and the Angels. Alex Wood, projected long relief here. Lucas Giolito making, what is this, his second start for the Angels? I think he got blown up in that first start.
Oh, yeah. Second start got absolutely annihilated against the Atlanta.
Yeah. Wait, it was his second start that he got annihilated, or this is his second start?
Second start with them. He started against Toronto in his opener, only pitched 73 pitches. He was pitching on 4 days rest.
Got destroyed against Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
That happens. I mean, I will say, though, home runs have been a serious issue for Lucas Giolito, regardless of where he's playing. And it's not like you can't hit home runs at Angel Stadium. He's allowed 8 home runs over his last 4 starts, 3, 0, 2, and 3. I mean, if you're talking about power that's been allowed by pitchers this year, obviously Lance Lynn's at the top. Dude's allowed, I think, 516 home runs thus far. But Lucas Giolito, he's allowing 1.73 home runs per 9. He does have a 25% K rate, but the power has been a legitimate issue.
Yeah, and he's going from guaranteed rate field, which was 6th best in terms of home run percentage on the season in baseball, and he's going to Angel Stadium, which is 4th highest. We're talking an upgrade for hitters against Lucas Giolito in a ballpark that's easier to go long on him. I find that to be a little bit disheartening if you're trying to back Lucas Giolito here. He has the 25% K rate. That's the thing that shines and the thing that stands out here. But against righties specifically, they can go Wade, Peterson, Flores at the top of this lineup. And those are guys who don't really strike out. You do have Blake Sable lefty in there against him, but otherwise it's just not a great spot here. And yeah, you brought it up. 18.4 degree average launch angle on the season, 11.1% barrel percentage. Lots of ways where Lucas Giolito is a great guy to be stacking up against here today, as opposed to playing him at 13.6% ownership. But he's got some of the best strikeout stuff amongst anybody on this specific slate, and that includes the likes of Framber Valdez and Max Scherzer. So you're getting a discount from some of those guys. If you've got a pretty chalky lineup, I don't completely hate finding ways to get to him and just hope that you avoid some of those long ball issues.
So then how do you play this game on either side, knowing that Wood's going to come in, as a long reliever? We just talked about Giolito. We can get the bats. I'm doing this for brevity's sake because we have 4 games in 9 minutes.
Oh, yeah, we'll fly. I have no interest in either pitcher, the San Francisco side, Wood, Alexander, whatever. You're seeing Alex Wood's pitch count get reduced to that of 43 and 27 pitches his last 2. For me, San Francisco, you know the risks you're going to run into. You also kind of know the rewards, especially with an Angels bullpen. Estevez been struggling as a closer here for the Angels. Gave up, I think, 6 earned in the 9th yesterday. It's just a team that's backing up, and you have an opportunity with San Francisco where there's a lot of real power, but there's a lot of platoon risk that you have to be willing to accept. It is what it is. As for the Angels, pretty decent spot to try to pluck a Ohtani one off. That's kind of been my routine thing on every single one of these slates, but you look at them as a stack, not the most appealing team for me to be getting to. It's a great home run great ballpark for home runs. They're completely unowned, but for me, running into a bullpen situation where it's going to be Alexander, Wood, and then a lot of arms trying to flip these guys around and they can play matchups, not my favorite thing to attack.
Texas and Oakland. Oh, before we do, football season's coming up. Baseball season, still some games left. NFL preseason coming up. you can laugh and scoff all you want, but preseason betting is phenomenal. Also, so are all of our tools. Normally it's $120 for the month, right? We have a partnership with BetMGM where the link's in the description. Jordan can throw it in the chat. You click the link, you sign up on BetMGM, you put $10 in. That's it. And you got a free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum, $120 value, all of our tools for every sport, not just baseball, not just football, all of our sports, the entirety of the month, including our premium Discord. All of that stuff is free. Right after, all you do, you put $10 in and you put that bet on whatever you want. Put it on snooker for all it matters. It doesn't. Once that bet settles, you're in. And your first bet, some of you may look at this and be like, well, I don't really understand. These type of first bet insurance things are huge for anybody that's looking to get their foot in the door. Your first bet is insured up to $1,000. So you could put, and you don't have to put 1,000. You only have to do 10, but up to 1,000, no matter how much your bet is, up to that much, even if you lose it, you get it all back in bonus bets, which is, you're getting everything back. So you're doing that. And you've got a first entire month, no strings attached, Stochastic Plus Platinum, whether it's top pitchers tool, the top stacks tool, the stuff we reference on this show every day, the leverage scores and the ownership and the projections, the lineup generators included in that, all of that for baseball, for MMA, PGA, NASCAR, NFL, Matt Kajeski's NFL preseason projections, which are killer. You saw the screenshots from last week, $120 value. Just click the link, deposit $10, throw it in. And if you guys are ever going to sign up on these spots, it helps support our show and our channel so we can do this for free. And we appreciate you for that. But this offer is just sick regardless. So check it out if you want to get in the door. Get the full month for free. No strings attached. All right. Texas and Oakland. I don't even want to spend that much time on like, is Scherzer good or not? I'd rather just talk about it from a game theory perspective. I think it makes a whole lot more sense. Oakland has a 3.1 implied total. Scherzer's 39% owned with a top two pitcher probability of 29%. By far the highest owned pitcher on the slate, Eric.
Yeah, he should be. He's in the best spot. He's facing an Oakland Athletics team that, obviously Colorado strikes out a metric ton as well, but over the course of the season, 25.2% K rate. And the other major thing is that you're looking at Blade, Giloff, you've got Soderstrom. They did, who is Tony Kemp replacing? He only has an 8.9% K rate. They've obviously put him in to try to neutralize Scherzer a little bit at the top of that lineup. It was somebody else that led off yesterday. Cody, can't even remember his name. Cody Thomas, found it, who had a 36.4% K rate. He's not in the lineup here today. They ended up going Kemp to try to neutralize it. Doesn't matter to me. Scherzer's just been locked down. He's been pretty decent against lefties still. He's a complete shutout against righties, completely murdering them. 27.7% K rate. Looked good in that first start in a Rangers uniform. He's now going into one of the best pitchers' ballparks. It's really hard to get away from this chalk. So from a game theory perspective, obviously 10-8, you pay the 200 to get up there to Framber Valdez. You go down to Giolito, which is obviously a risky proposition, but he's got a 30.1% top two percentage. That's almost double that of Framber Valdez. It is double of that of a Logan Gilbert, who's number 3 on the list. He's in a really good spot. Feels like a set it and forget it type of thing. It's MLB DFS, so make sure you're making those lineups to account for it. But Max Scherzer, he's showing up in the Sims tool as he should.
All right. Yeah, I love Sean V. I tell you, Sean V makes for a lively chat session all the time. If you want to pull Josh out of his hole, all you gotta do is get Sean V to pop in. Him, SMP. It's a good dynamic, I must say. I thoroughly enjoy following this in chat.
There's days I can't deal with it, and I just kind of block him from the universe. Makes me feel better. There's only
one person that ever actually pissed me off.
Who?
In chat.
Oh, in chat. I was gonna say, I think I did that on this show. So.
Yeah, no. Plenty of people piss me off. I don't hold grudges though. I try not to. It's no way to live. Really
just carry a weight, and then the other person wins anyway.
Yeah, it's a shitty life, man. I'm telling you right now.
Not fun.
Anyway, enough of that. Do you like JP Sears at all?
I would if he wasn't going to be the second or third highest owned pitcher on this slate. 7,300 against Texas. Pretty high implied total for Texas.
Let me refresh. I have him at 9. Did we just update?
Did it just come way down? I've been shocked by him and Wade Miley's ownership all day. I think the Wade Miley one makes more sense, and I do think people are going to land there a lot more.
Has come up a lot, by the way.
Yeah, JP Sears is at 20.6% right now. He's the third highest owned pitcher on this slate. He's falling into that bucket of all the guys in the 7K range you can play. I'm probably going to be shorting this by a metric ton. We have a 6.7% top 2 percentage for him. Top 2 percentage of 6.7%. So almost 1/20th of the time you are running into JP Sears finishing as a top 2 pitcher on this slate. Obviously, he can fall into the value category, but even that isn't so great at 7,300, 8.9% top 2 value percentage. I mean, this is just like a fade extraordinaire. I'm going to be running back Texas bats after they failed me yesterday. They were a lot more popular than projected. I think that was understandable. But now you're going to still get the top of this lineup at really low ownership, positive leverage ever so slightly. It's a 4.9 team total here. Yeah, Oakland, the ballpark, not the best. But JP Sears, as much as I want to advocate for him, still giving up a 459 expected slugging, 12.6% barrel percentage facing one of the best offenses in baseball.
Man, ownership changed quite a bit since our last run, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Texas bats?
Yes, big time. At 4%, 3%. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be going around the horn with some of them. You get some cheapies in the outfield. Tavares is down to 3,300 if he ends up in that lineup as well. And then, of course, the Seager upside, the Adolis Garcia upside, the Marcus Semien upside, Nate Lau. Why couldn't you get a hit for me yesterday? That would have been great. Mitch Garver with Jonah Heim on the IL. Feels good to get to Texas at this kind of low ownership.
We've seen some reverse splits, like significant reverse splits for Julio Urias this year, going up against Brandon Pfaadt. 9.5 run total. Dodgers minus 162 in Arizona. Is pitching something that we can look to in this spot? Because neither of these guys pulling a ton of ownership, and obviously going up against the Dodgers is an unenviable position. But Urias a lot of times gets some ownership. I think that price point's going to make it pretty difficult, though.
Yeah, we've also seen him they've been careful, should I say, with him a little bit more. 68 pitches against Oakland, took him out after 5. He had a split nail, which was a deal that I know had popped up for him in that last start. So maybe they just kind of show caution with him here again. He's 9,100, doesn't have like the resounding case stuff that you're kind of looking for at that kind of a price point. And then he's going up against an Arizona team that, even against lefties, they've been serviceable with a 20.7% K rate. Only a 147 ISO, so it's a decent spot to avoid some power in Chase Field, but not my favorite pitcher to get to.
How about Dodger bats today with a significant, significant implied total? They're at 5.5, third highest total on the slate behind only Atlanta and Boston, going up against, a pitcher who's liable to give some stuff up.
Yeah, and he had his best start in San Francisco last time out, 7 innings pitched, 7 Ks, only gave up the one long ball, but that's kind of been something that's his MO here so far this season. He only has one game in all of his appearances, 9 starts, where he hasn't given up at least one home run. He's given up 14 in those 44 and a third innings. So yeah, 9 starts, 14 homers. Seems like a ratio you might want to attack with some Dodgers bats. You know who they are. But Brandon Pfaadt, this is just it's always tough to know what a pitcher is going to look like coming from the PCL, the Pacific Coast League, where they're pitching on the moon. You're in Albuquerque, you're in Reno, the ball's flying forever. He had really good success still in those starts at AAA. So there's at least hope for him from coming back from AAA, but it has not been a good year for him so far this season. I'm going to just back the Dodgers at this kind of positive leverage.
Let's wrap this one up. We'll turn it over to the Live Before Lock crew. By the way, 11 likes away from 200. Not bad for a Tuesday night, Eric. Not bad.
Beautiful stuff.
We'll get there. Just 11 of the 900 people in here to say, hey, I'll take a second and atone for my sins. And as you guys know, like I said, all of our stuff, like Lineup Generator, 50% off, $448 for the first week, Stochastic Plus Platinum, 50% off. We don't discount the Lineup Simulator for very obvious reasons. Just, very obvious reasons, but that's down there too. And you've seen the massive wins. But yeah, all that down there. If you want the free month, just go through BetMGM for $10 if it's legal in your state. But a lot of different ways to play it, no matter what your bankroll is, no matter how much time you have in the day, we got you covered. And my DMs are always open on Twitter. If you have questions about what makes the most sense, happy to help you out. Padres in Seattle, Nick Martinez, Logan Gilbert. All right. Nick Martinez getting 0 ownership today. We have him as 0% top 2 probability in the top pitchers tool. I don't think we need to spend much time on him. Logan Gilbert, 14% owned, though. He is getting ownership against this San Diego team. Do you like this spot?
Yeah, so this is the pitcher that I've kind of been surprised has gotten no attention whatsoever. I'm not normally a Logan Gilbert guy, but I will be today at this kind of ownership. He's got a 24% K rate. He's pitching in the best pitcher's park in baseball, and you're going to still have some kind of strikeout. I'm not sure how this Padres lineup is going to come through, but Campusano ended up going double dong the other day. They probably throw him in there. He's got a really low K rate, but I mean, Ji-Man Choi, they ended up picking up with the intention of playing him against righties. He's been north of a 33% K rate all season long. So curious to see him and how this lineup configuration is going to come out. But Logan Gilbert, if this Padres lineup looks decent to attack for me, there's no doubt that he could pitch deep into this game and find some success against a San Diego team that's just had a devil of a time creating runs this entire season. It's been pretty atrocious. They are up to a 101 WRC plus on the whole, only a 21.6% K rate against right-handed pitching, but Logan Gilbert is pretty serviceable. He's sub 9K. There aren't a lot of pitchers that I feel are pretty sure to be going 5 and 6 in some of these spots that I feel like are reliable, but he falls into the bucket of guys where ballpark's there, flat leverage. I'm definitely going to be firing some up.
And we'll wrap it up with this. Both teams, 4.5 run implied total. Nick Martinez, I don't think we get a ton of San Diego bats, but Martinez, how do 4.5 run total in this park? He's allowing north of 1 home runs per 9. It hasn't been crazy though. Striking out, 22%, but how deep does he go in this game?
So not very far. I have him for 45 pitches at the moment. So yeah, I just kind of put him in a flat.
What does the bullpen look like?
Yeah, so looking at the configuration for the last couple of days, I mean, they've got a number of options. They had to just use up some bad arms because they were getting completely lit up by the Dodgers there. But they have Honeywell available, Wilson available. I mean, Hader for closing situations. Rich Hill could be some kind of a long relief option if they need to. He hasn't pitched. Well, I guess no, he pitched an inning 2 days ago against the Dodgers. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see, because he was intended to be kind of a long relieving type arm for them. I don't think he was ever going to break the starting rotation, but they have enough there where I think Martinez 45 pitches, and then it's never fun to attack bullpens. So Seattle, not going to be one that I go completely nuts with, although one guy who does pop up for me a little bit, just because anytime he faces a righty, I'll have a little bit. Dominic Canzone, he's there to kind of fill that role for Jared Kelenic, as he's been on the IL since he hurt his hand stupidly banging it, doing whatever. But Dominic Canzone came from Arizona, tons of power at AAA Reno. So I want to at least star highlight him as a really low owned option for the night slate.
All right. Well, there it is. Follow Eric at Eric Lindquist. Me at Lafayette_D. Shout out to Jordan Klein for producing this one. Stick around. Greg Ehrenberg, Neil Orfield coming up next. And shout out to you guys as always. Crushed it today. Gonna hit 250 likes. Stick around. Hall of Fame coming up next. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Deeper Dive live before lock, strategy show, all that good stuff. And be sure to always check out Eric's video over on OddShopper breaking down every MLB game. I'll have my preseason week 2. It's really week 1, but you get it. Betting picks coming out, picks for every game for each day of the week, starting on Thursday morning. So if you're not over on the OddShopper channel, hit that subscribe, show us some love, and check out all that content that we've been doing. Until next time, peace. Yo, we're back. It's been a little while, but here we are. Bigger than ever, Stochastic Hall of Fame, inducting you fine fellas into it, and of course, giving out a boatload of free monthly Stochastic Plus Platinum memberships, $120 value to all of you. And all you need to do in order to get up here on the board, get inducted into the Hall of Fame, get your free month, Download the Stochastic avatar, profile picture. It's stochastic.com/avatar. Use it wherever the hell it is that you play. And then when you do win, tweet those wins at Stochastic HOF with the shout out and the screenshot so we can see it. As long as you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, boom, you're in. Free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum and this fine video that you can show all of your friends, this crowning achievement. We'll kick it off with Dave Oliver. Dave, huge week not long ago. Thank you guys. Stochastic tools are hands down the best. Finished first for 20K and then 5th, 23rd, 45th, all the way down. A huge day for Dave Oliver, and there were more. We just don't have enough room in this one to put them. Warren Harmon just got another second place in MLB. My life's changing so fast, and the tools of Stochastic are real, and they truly work. Shout out to Stochastic. $10,000 second place in the relay throw. And how about S. Schaefer back again? Love the new lineup simulator tool at Stochastic. Takes building MME lineups to the next level. Also, tip of the hat to our boys EMAC and Gundacker for providing pre-slate analysis on Live Before Lock. $2,500 win for Schaefer. And Timothy Holmes, this is how we do it. Yes, it is. Weasel a $25,000 win rocking the Stochastic avatar. Huge win, Timothy. Congratulations, man. And Maui, thanks Stochastic. Glad the Yankees came through today. On to the next one. $1,500 in the mini-max, followed up by Donald Thorne or Donald Duck 2476, $10,000 win. Thanks to everyone at Stochastic, especially Laffy, Josh, Adam. I think this qualifies for a free month at Stochastic. Can't wait to get reacquainted with the tools. Appreciate all the content. Donald Duck Thorne. Bill White, thanks for the info. I'll take second any day of the week. Hell yeah, man. $5,000 again in the mini max. We have just owned the mini max lately over at Stochastic. Michael P. Clement, thank you guys. Best tools in the industry. Best show on YouTube. Clem 822, $5,000. First place, another big one. And Sean Geezy, my first season playing MLB DFS and booked a win. Always, as always, thanks to the crew and the rest of the Stochastic crew for the best tools and content in the game. $7,500 in, well, the Mega Mini Max. Lock it up. Sam Van Dam, love this one. Little Hall of Fame game action. Not a bad way to start the NFL season. Thanks to Matt Kajeski for the analysis and Laffy for the content last night on the show. Stochastic stays the best. Almost $600 in some preseason Hall of Fame action. Can't beat that. David Simmons, thanks for all the valuable information you guys bring to the game. Total game changer. $1,500 for David Simmons. Slim Lancaster 22. And Fantasy Sports or MK Palco something. Thanks for the Live Before Lock today. Almost took one down. $1,500 second place for our pal Fantasy Sports. And then Marvin, I told you, just loaded today. Hey, needed that free month of platinum and a shout out Laffy and ship my money. My first time winning any contest in any sport. That's awesome, man. Put your boy in the Stochastic Hall of Fame. I'm going for the Millie Maker season. $1,000 from Marvelous Mac Man in the solo shot. And the last two here, our boy, the Maharishi. Beats 35,000 entries only to finish second to another Stochastic logo. You love seeing that. First and second rocking the Stochastic Abby. I'll definitely take it, though. Never been an MME guy, but the lineup generator makes it quick and easy. Yeah, it's also $4.48 for your first week. Link in the chat and in the description. Paul Hall, looks like I made it. Stochastic Hall of Fame runner-up in the $1. Listen regularly, and Greg Ehrenberg sent me to low-owned MKE as I only hand-build 1 or 2 lineups a night. This was a good one entry. Thanks to the crew and even Eric Lindquist, $300 to Paul Hall. That will do it. Remember, stochastic.com/avatar. Rock it wherever it is you play. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more and send those screenshots over to us at Stochastic HOF. Get inducted into the Hall of Fame. Welcome to all of you who are here for the first time, and welcome back. You've been here before, and get a free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum along the way. See you back here for another edition of the Hall of Fame next week.
I could kind of make out, but
Do you think it's his internet?
it could be. Was that at all for you as well too? Listening to him being like, it doesn't really totally make sense.
Not really.
All right. What is up, guys? It is time for Stochastic MLB Live Before Lock. We had the deeper dive, which just wrapped up, and now it's time to talk about who Neil and I are going to be playing on tonight's slate. I know that I am all set and ready to go. I've got my lineups all run through our sim switch. If you guys want to sign up for it, there is a link below. So I built 10,000 lineups up, simulated them all through our sim store right now, and going to be bringing you guys the results of all of that here in a second. As you come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you want to sign up for all the tools and data we have at Stokastic.com, Neil, do you know the absolute easiest way for people to get access to a Stokastic Plus Platinum package right now?
Easiest way to get access to Stochastic Plus, probably link in the description, probably in chat. Actually, I bet Jordan put the link in the chat.
I mean, it depends how much he's paying attention right now, but we're sponsored by BetMGM today, guys. If you guys have not signed up over at BetMGM, here's what you could do. You sign up using the link below in the description box, or also, as Neil said, maybe we could get Jordan to click on something and put the link into YouTube chat. Jordan's saying, no, it's impossible. But if you go, there it is, it showed up. So if you guys want to click on that link, you can sign up at BetMGM. We also got a pin below in the description box. When you sign up to BetMGM using that link, 1 free month, Stochastic Plus Platinum. Also, your first bet, if it loses, get refunded a bonus bets up to $1,000 over at BetMGM. So lots of reasons to go sign up. But of course, if you guys are DFS players, which you all are because you're watching, sign up at BetMGM using our link, 1 free month of our Stochastic Plus Platinum package. Tools, data, projections for every single DFS sport out there. Neil, what's happening? How's your day going?
Can't complain. My wife has a lot of she's got a work thing going on this week with 3M where she's got people in town. So she's been like out all day, every day this week. So of course my dog is unhappy. I've been tending to him constantly. But other than that, things are going well for me. Yeah, can't complain. Yesterday's slate, man, that went horribly for him. I mean, I guess ultimately I probably only lost like 50%. I never had anything resembling a sweat yesterday. I felt like everything that I said was wrong yesterday. Everything that I did was wrong. So it was kind of miraculous that I only lost about 50%. How are you doing? How did yesterday go for you?
So I had some live lineups. It didn't end up going well, but I did have a couple live lineups, but they were not the lineups I would have expected to be live. It was like I had like 2% pirate stacks, and like a couple of them were pretty decent. Here's what really killed me yesterday is I had a pretty decent single entry lineup for some of the higher stake stuff. My pitching combination was Freddie Peralta and Hyun-Jin Ryu, who is a contrarian pitcher I liked. How did Hyun-Jin Ryu pitch? Really well. But what happened to him yesterday? He goes 4 scoreless innings, hurts his knee, has to come out. So I ended up missing. Yeah, I ended up missing the min cash line by like 2 points in a lot of the higher stake stuff. So I would have had a really solid night if Hyun-Jin Ryu just didn't get hurt. So
I missed that he was injured. I saw that they took him out. I thought it might have just been like, maybe we pushed him too hard last game. We're going to bring him back a little bit. I didn't realize he hurt himself.
Yeah, he did. He banged up his knee at some point yesterday. So we pitched 4 great shutout innings going like, oh my God, look, because those were the 2 contrarian pitchers I like going against each other. Gavin Williams, great. Hyun-Jin Ryu also was great while he was on the mound. So yeah, could have had some really good-looking contrarian lineups yesterday, and unfortunately, Hyun-Jin Ryu just wasn't able to tough out the knee injury. So moving on to today, where we've got 11 games and some interesting talking points to get to. But first, Neil, we're going to start at pitcher. We have Max Scherzer pitching against the Oakland A's, nearly 50% owned for tonight's slate. We've got him just under that mark over on DraftKings. I'm going to refresh ownership to make sure I'm looking at the most recent numbers. Yeah, so Scherzer's 46% owned over on DraftKings, 35% on FanDuel. So much like Spencer Strider, he's the safest pitcher on tonight's slate. But what are you going to do with him relative to his ownership in large field tournaments, Neil?
I'm going to be just a little bit underweight to the field. I mean, looking at him in the top pitcher tool, like he is like basically double the next pitcher for Amber Valdez in terms of top 2 pitcher odds, just a little bit less than double Valdez's odds of being a top 2 pitcher, but he's also getting over 50% ownership. So 30% chance of being a top 2 pitcher at 50% ownership. I set my cap today on pitchers at 40%. I'm going to get to 40% Max Scherzer. He makes a lot of sense. It's a great matchup with Oakland. As we saw yesterday, though, baseball is volatile. You can't count on even Spencer Strider against the Pirates. You can't necessarily count on, if you're not comfortable playing Spencer Strider, if he can get blown up, Max Scherzer certainly can get blown up as well. So I'm pretty happy to be a little bit underweight to the field, but obviously it's as good of a spot as you can hope for. So 40% seems about right for me. What are you doing with Scherzer?
Yeah, right about the same as you. I have my lineups that I ran through the Sims tool, and that's also where I'm sitting at, is a little bit over 40% here myself. So about even with the field, which, by the way, that was also kind of how I approached the Strider and Freddie Peralta last night, where I was about even with the field on those guys as well. I ended up going a little bit more Strider than I did Peralta, which in hindsight, would have preferred if it went the other way. But either way, like, I was about even with the field on both those guys. And Scherzer, if you have the ability to pay up for a pitcher today, I do think that he's the pitcher who has the best combination of being safe while also having the most upside. And a lot of it has to do because of that matchup against the Oakland A's. He's on the road. He's in Oakland. It's a super pitcher-friendly park, and the offense is just kind of dog shit. I know that Max Scherzer himself hasn't had a Max Scherzer type of year, and I'm sure age is playing a part in that. But I mean, we've seen terrible pitchers dice up the Oakland A's all year. Domingo Germán, who is not even in the big leagues for a variety of reasons right now, has had like one good start the entire year, and it was a perfect game against the Oakland A's. So any pitcher, I think, could have a good game against the A's at any point in time. And Max Scherzer, I'm going to give him the same kibosh that I put on Spencer Strider yesterday. He's the safest and best pitcher that we have on the slate today, Max Scherzer.
Yeah, clearly the safest and best on the slate, and hopefully he blows up other people's lineups more than he blows up ours. And
if you were to pivot off of Max Scherzer in lineups, which we're going to be doing, we're not playing Max Scherzer obviously in all of our lineups. We're somewhere around even with the field on him. Project for 46% ownership. You and I around that 40% mark. So if you were going to pivot off of Max Scherzer on the high end, who would you go to? Would you be looking at Framber Valdez coming off a no-hitter at 11,000? Tough matchup on the road against Baltimore. Beyond that, we don't really have expensive pitchers. Nobody else is above 10K, but there's Lucas Giolito at 9,900, Tanner Beebe at 95. So if you're taking anybody above 9K who is not Max Scherzer, do you have a preferred pivot you like looking at?
Yeah, it's a really tough one today. Like there's nobody that I feel super comfortable with. I'm about even with the field on Framber. Field's getting to 13%. I think I'm right at 12%. Giolito, tough matchup with San Diego. Like none of them have great matchup. Sorry, Gilbert, tough matchup with San Diego. Giolito, better matchup with San Francisco, but it's in Anaheim. So like you don't benefit from being in San Francisco for the matchup. So really not that great of a spot. I don't know. Bybee has great leverage in the top pitchers tool. 6% projected ownership, 12% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. My first run, I did not get to any Bybee. So in my first run, I got to the most of Logan Gilbert, 24% on the high end outside of Scherzer. I don't know if I'm going to, and I currently don't have any Giolito. I probably want to get a little bit more Giolito into my lineups just because he's pretty neutral in terms of 13% ownership, 13% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. I think I want to play a little bit there. So I guess the answer is like there's no clear cut to me pitcher that I really want to get to, like favorite pivot option outside of Scherzer. Probably just going to be spreading it out a little bit. Is there anybody that you're really honing in on?
Not really on the high end. If I'm looking to get, and the other thing too that we have to mention about these pitchers is it's not like there's one of these guys we could look at and it's like, oh, this guy doesn't have any ownership really. You know, because you've got Framber Valdez still 13% owned. You've still got Giolito here at 15% owned. You know, you could say maybe Tanner Beebe at 7%, but I'm not really thrilled about playing him against the Toronto Blue Jays at his price point. And then Julio Urias just hasn't pitched very deep into games this year on the road in Arizona. So if I'm going to differentiate a pitcher, I prefer to go on the cheap end as a way to really differentiate some of my lineups. I just really find it hard to do it at the top end, especially when you've already got, ownership going to Framber Valdez at 13%, a tough matchup on the road against Baltimore. So let's start looking at some of the cheaper pitchers then, unless you have anything else you want to say about the high end guys.
No, I think we've covered the high end guys enough.
So as we start to look into the below 9K range, and let's look at pitchers who are, I guess we don't have that many of them to talk about here. There's just really Mitch Keller, Logan Gilbert, and Yusei Kikuchi, who are in the 8K range. So I guess we'll group them together. Between Keller, who's got a brutal matchup against the Braves, then we've got Kikuchi, who's pitching against Cleveland on the road, Logan Gilbert against San Diego. You just mentioned that's a really hard matchup. Between these 3 pitchers, who are the only 3 in this price range, do you have a preferred option? Because here's what I think is going to happen. A lot of people are going to be hand building lineups, and they're going to find like, oh my God, I've got $8,800 in salary left. I have to play one of these guys. In that kind of scenario, who is it that you would look towards?
in that kind of scenario, I think I just go to Logan Gilbert. He is the one that I'm getting into the most of. Don't love the matchup with San Diego, but it's not like they've been mashing all year, even though the talent is there. They haven't necessarily put it together this year. Got a little bit of positive leverage there, 14% ownership, 15% chance of being a top 2 pitcher for Gilbert. I prefer the matchup with San Diego to the matchup with the Braves. So don't really love going to Mitch Keller. We do have pretty massive positive leverage on Mitch Keller, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should just be trusting the numbers. I didn't get to any of him in my first crunch, but he does look really good in the top pitchers tool. 1% projected ownership, 9% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, and 5% chance of being a top 2 value pitcher. So I'm probably making a mistake by not trying to force in a little bit of Mitch Keller, but he's not the kind of pitcher that I really want to be forcing into my lineups. Yeah, I think it would probably just be Logan Gilbert for me. Is there any, do you prefer anybody else?
No, it's the same thing. I just kind of like going cheaper. If I absolutely have to pick one of these guys, I'm going to go with Logan Gilbert. The matchup against San Diego absolutely sucks, but it's really to highlight that, it's tough to find pitchers in this mid-range. So at the high end, I think Scherzer's the pretty obvious choice. That's why a lot of people are gravitating towards him. And then where I think we're going to have to really try to differentiate some of our lineups is on this low end. And there's really only a couple of pitchers that are popular at the bottom here. We've got Wade Miley project for 21% ownership. We've got JP Sears at 20%. And then once you get past these guys, you've got Grayson Rodriguez, 12%, but he's 6,900. Every other cheap option is sub 10%. So you can really make some interesting lineups looking at the cheap end of pitchers. And there's one that is standing out to me quite a bit because of, number one, the matchup. I don't think he's a terrible pitcher, and I'm getting well overweight to the field to him while I'm running my lineups through our simulations. And also, if you guys watched the video I put out on Twitter earlier, it's the same guy, Cutter Crawford, only 9% owned. Great match for him against the Royals. The Royals offense has been like the light version of the Oakland A's, where, another team that just doesn't produce a whole lot. I think one of the weirdest chalk situations we have the entire year was Kansas City being chalk last night against Brian Bayo. Yep. And it's not necessarily that they're a chalk offense there, but still picking up some ownership. And I prefer the Cutter Crawford side of it. Only $7,600, single digit ownership. That's my favorite contrarian cheap pitching option. Do you have one that you like for cheap that's contrarian?
Yeah, I'm totally with you on Crawford. I'm getting to 16% currently, so above weight to the field, at least on Cutter Crawford. Some positive leverage in the top pitchers tool, 7,600, great matchup. Yeah, everything you said, I think I agree with that. Really like Crawford. I am getting to above weight to the field on Wade Miley, and I don't know what to do with it. A little bit of pitch count concerns. I was trying to look up if he has anything like actual official pitch count, and I don't think I've seen anything, but what did he pitch? 60 pitches last time out, something like that. So I don't imagine that he's going to be pitching like 90 pitches. He is pitching better. The past couple of starts, he's been pitching a little bit faster. But man, I don't really want to play somebody if they have a cap of 70 pitches, even against Colorado. Maybe 70 is like starts to be the point where maybe I think it is worth it to play. Like if you could tell me that Wade Miley has a pitch count of 80, I think I would still go to him at 7,000. I don't know what to think of Wade Miley right now. So he is somebody that currently is in 32% of my lineup. So I'm actually above weight to the field on Wade Miley. That's something that I'm going to be kind of wrestling with a little bit throughout the show. Oh, but I guess there is a cheap pitcher that I'm getting to even more than Wade Miley, and that is Clark Schmidt against the White Sox, coming in at 11% ownership, 11% chance being a top 2 pitcher, 16% chance of being a top 2 value pitcher. I set my cap on pitcher exposure at 40%. I got to 40% Clark Schmidt. He looks really good in the tools today, projects pretty well for his price tag. So it makes sense that I'm getting to a good amount of Clark Schmidt. Grayson Rodriguez, yeah, it's a really tough matchup with Houston, but talented enough that I like Grayson Rodriguez as well. I'd say those are the primary cheap pitchers that I'm interested in getting to. Maybe actually currently the only cheap pitchers that I'm getting to. Are you getting to any others, or do you like any of those?
So, I mean, you just listed a handful of guys that you said.
I threw a lot at you.
I'm trying to remember. You asked me, did
Clark
I get
Schmidt,
to any of these guys?
Grayson Rodriguez, Wade Miley. I think those are the three that you had not brought up.
Slightest of overweight to Clark Schmidt. He's in 15% of my lineups right now. My two favorite guys to get to on the cheap end are Cutter Crawford and Clark Schmidt. When I look at just these cheap pitchers that are picking up ownership, like I get that it's a really good matchup going up against the Colorado Rockies for for Wade Miley, but I don't really ever want to play a chalky Wade Miley. I know he's cheap. He's got a good matchup, but like, is his range of outcomes really that much different than like a Cutter Crawford? Is it that much different than a Clark Schmidt? I don't know. I think those guys are a little bit better than Wade Miley, but also don't have, well, actually, we've got a really easy matchup for Cutter Crawford, but like Clark Schmidt, matchup on the road against Chicago White Sox. So that in total, the scenario is a little bit more difficult than the matchup that Wade Miley's in. But I think the Clark Schmidt just being a better pitcher and combined with the fact that he is less than half of the ownership makes it easier for me to get overweight to the field on Clark Schmidt and then be a little bit underweight to the field on Wade Miley. So any of these popular cheap pitchers right now, I'm underweight to the field. So I'm underweight to the field on JP Sears. I'm underweight to the field on Wade Miley. I'm underweight to the field on Grayson Rodriguez.
Okay. You say you're underweight to the field or overweight?
Underweight.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I thought you had said that you're overweight on all of them, but you're underweight to, so who are you overweight to the field on?
I'm overweight to Cutter Crawford and Clark Schmidt on the low end, and then
Gotcha.
I'm underweight to the guys who are popular. So you got JP Sears at 20% ownership. You got Wade Miley at 21% ownership. Grayson Rodriguez 12%. So the ones who are actually popular on the low end, I'm underweight to. And then I just go to guys who seem to project comparably for us that just are lower owned.
Yeah, I currently have 0 JP Sears. I mean, not a great matchup. I don't really understand why he's getting 18% ownership.
I don't mind him in terms of just the ability and the strikeout stuff. I don't like the matchup or the ownership, though.
Yeah,
those are two things that are definitely both a little bit problematic for me.
Yep, I'm with you.
Anything else you want to talk about as far as DraftKings pitchers go? If not, we'll look at the pitchers over on FanDuel.
I think we've talked about every pitcher that I am playing today. Yep, looking through my list, we've talked about literally every pitcher that I am playing. Trying to see if there are any others that like are worth talking about. Brady Singer, don't love the matchup with Boston, has some positive leverage there. Kyle Freeland actually coming in at less than 1% ownership with a 13% chance of being a top 2 value pitcher. Might make sense if you have 6,000 left over. I think Kyle Freeland is probably the pitcher that I would go to at that point. Yeah, I don't think there's any others that we need to talk about.
All right, so let's go ahead and look at Discord, and then we'll go ahead and look at some of the FanDuel pitching options as well, which the same options that are on DraftKings, but there's definitely going to be some different decision-making points, like what do you do with a chalky Max Scherzer on a one-pitcher slate, or I should say a one-pitcher site. But first, Einsteinium said, do you like Cutter Crawford today? Yeah, on the low end, he's the pitcher that I'm most overweight to, but now with that said, it means that I'm getting to just under 20% of Cutter Crawford. Like I'm really mixing and matching some of the cheap guys I go with. There's not one cheap guy I'm like, oh, this is the guy I need to get, like 30% of or anything like that. So I don't have any cheap guys in my lineups more than 20% right now, but Cutter Crawford is the one that I have the most of and am most overweight to on the low end, Cutter Crawford there. And then Clyde asked this question about the Angels and them as a stack. We'll talk about them more when we get to stacks in a second, but let's look at FanDuel now. So if we go and look at the FanDuel pitching options, Neil, we've got Max Scherzer, who's the most popular pitcher on FanDuel as well. Play him in cash games today. For tournaments, though, if you were building out, let's say, one lineup on FanDuel, which I think is going to apply to a lot of our audience, would you go with Scherzer in that one lineup or would you go elsewhere? One tournament lineup.
I'd probably go elsewhere just because of the massive negative leverage, 35% ownership, 10% chance of being the top pitcher. It is tough though. Like if I have 10,000, like if I make a lineup and I usually start with bats if I'm hand building and I have 10,500 left over, I would just play Scherzer at that point. So, yeah, if I were hand building one lineup, I probably would end up with Scherzer. Kind of depends on the way I built out my lineup though, just because I always start with the bats rather than the pitcher when I am building it out. But I don't think that I would go out of my way to not play Scherzer, but that's partially because I usually start with more contrarian stacks. So then I don't need to go contrarian a pitcher. I can just go with what I'm comfortable with. So my guess is if I were playing one lineup, I would play Scherzer. I would get different with the bats. I don't know that that's necessarily the right approach though. What do you think you would do?
I'd be playing Scherzer in that lineup. 10,500 pitching against the Oakland A's. He brings a lot of upside. He brings a lot of safety as well. I'm the same page as you. If I'm building one lineup on FanDuel, I'm going to ride with the chalk at pitcher and Max Scherzer, and I'll differentiate elsewhere, especially because I just don't feel great about the pitching options on FanDuel. For reference, the only other popular pitcher on the slate that's projected for double-digit ownership on FanDuel, it's Lucas Giolito. He's projected for 18% ownership over on FanDuel. And it just kind of gets to be an issue with some of the options relative to their price points, where it's like, all right, Mitch Keller's $8,800. Framber Valdez, $10,800 on the road against Baltimore. The only other guy who I think relative to price point and everything, I mean, like Clark Schmidt at 7,200 isn't an awful play over on FanDuel, but is he likely to go 6 innings and get you that quality start? Probably not. He doesn't work all that deep into games. So I would just rather Max Scherzer a pitcher over on FanDuel, and I differentiate elsewhere. If I had to pick somebody who's contrarian, all things being considered, I probably would go to Clark Schmidt at $7,200. Cheap price point, only 4% owned, but I don't really love him.
Yeah, no, I think that I was kind of thinking the same thing. Like, I mean, it is also like, so I say I would likely end on Scherzer, but if I end up playing like a couple stacks on FanDuel that are getting low ownership and are expensive, I also don't hate making lineups where it's like I jam in like the, low owned, but like high priced, say the Dodgers on FanDuel or something. Like we got positive leverage on the Dodgers. If I build out a Dodgers lineup, and Dodgers and Yankees are two of our higher owns. Actually, the Yankees are fairly cheap. Dodgers and Braves. So say I do those two stacks. I wouldn't hate then going to a contrarian pitcher. And I don't hate the idea of playing someone like Clark Schmidt or, even like if I have 6,800 left over and I have to play Grayson Rodriguez in that lineup, I wouldn't hate doing that. So I don't know necessarily that I would get to Scherzer, but certainly he'd be like the first pitcher that I would want to play if I am able to.
We have some super chats here, and apologies to Jose Morales. I didn't see this one come across the top of the show, but first, shout out to our Apple friend, Chris Williams, gifted out 5 YouTube memberships out to the people in YouTube. So if anybody now has a green name that didn't before, that is courtesy of our friend, Chris Williams. So Chris, thank you for the support. And Jose Morales wants to know about tiers, who our favorite options are in each tier. So I've got lineups built out here, 4 tiers. Would you go and I'm fairly sure. I remember looking at Josh's tweet earlier.
Yep, I'm looking at it.
All right. So let's start with tier 1. Who does Josh have as the player he likes the most in tier 1?
Ronald Acuna by a little bit.
Yeah, Ronald Acuna by a lot. If you just have the option where it's like, hey, Ronald Acuna or anybody else, it's almost always going to be Ronald Acuna. Now, is he going to be uber popular in this tier? Most likely. So if you want to go with another Braves player who is going to be less popular than Ronald Acuna, you can make a case for Matt Olson in tier 1 as well. Tier 2, what's standing out to Josh in that tier?
Aaron Judge.
Same. Aaron Judge is a tier 1 player. It's pretty crazy that he finds himself in tier 2 today. So Aaron Judge, that is going to be my choice as well in tier 2. Tier 3, what does Josh have there?
So Josh actually has Bobby Witt Jr. edging out Rafael Devers, but I think based on like the rest of Josh's answers, I would rather go to Devers if I were building out the lineup, just because he's right behind Bobby Witt and he correlates better with the rest of Josh's picks.
All right, I'm going to go with Ozzy Albies here, correlates with us with the Ronald Acuna and potentially Matt Olson in tier 1. I like the Braves a good amount today. We'll talk about them as a stack in a second. I think it's a pretty good contrarian team to be looking at. Tier 4, what does Josh have in the tier 4?
Vlad Guerrero.
This is a really close one. Like I got to Bregman, Lindor, Vlad, very similarly. And then guys like Springer and Rushman were not all that far behind either. So I think this is a wide open tier. I did get to Bregman the most, but this is a tough one. I think this is very close. You go with a lot of really good answers. Tier 4, though, I'm going to go with Bregman as my choice. Tier 5, what does Josh have there?
Yoshida.
All right. Masataka Yoshida. I don't mind him. I think Yoshida or Christian Yelich, either of them are the top options. I'll go with Yoshida and agree with Josh here, but once again, very close in tier 5. The tiebreaker for me is going to be in tier 6. I have Jarren Duran as my favorite option. And then, like you said, also, we could go with Rafael Devers in tier 3 potentially. So tier 6, I'm going to go with Duran. What does Josh have in tier 6?
Josh also has Duran. So if you do Duran, Yoshida, Devers, you can do a little 3-man Red Sox deck.
Nice. So there we have it. Once again, Jose, thank you very much for the super chat. Sorry I didn't answer that earlier in the show. Didn't catch it. But thank you also for following up to see if I saw your super chat, because the answer was no, I didn't. And then I did end up seeing it. Mr. Cool Cam asked us about top contrarian stack for a FanDuel GPP. We'll get to that in a second when we get to stacks, but I see your super chat there, Mr. Cool Cam. And I think that'll help us right here. Let's go to the lineup generator, Jordan, and let's start with FanDuel, and we could answer Mr. Cool Cam's question as we build out lineups in the lineup generator. I already know what my answer is going to be, but when we go build lineups for FanDuel, Jordan, select the contrarian settings. Let's see what ends up popping up here, and if that could help us answer Mr. Cool Cam 97's chat here. But go contrarian. Yeah, contrarian. So Mr. Cool Cam wants. He wants contrarian stacks for FanDuel. And by the Red Sox are not going to be contrarian stack today. If you guys want to sign up for our lineup generator tool and you're signing up for the first time, use the link below. Less than $5. In here, you're going to find ownership projections, player projections. If you're, looking around throughout switching out the players, but also it's going to build up to 20 lineups directly for you, plus EV lineups. You can build chalky lineups, contrarian lineups, however it is you want to go about building lineups in this. And look how spread out our stacks ended up being. You don't see that all that often, Neil.
Yeah, more spread out than usual for sure. Maybe it's because we went contrarian rather than balanced, and there are more contrarian options.
We also, now that I think about it, it's very rare that we build contrarian lineups on a slate of this size in the lineup generator.
True. Yeah, we usually just go balanced on large slates.
So that's probably something that made a difference as well.
But I like it. I like seeing the spread there.
Yeah, Boston, Atlanta, New York. So no team more than 40% of lineups. And it's got my favorite contrarian stack of the slate. Now, actually, let me go check to make sure that the ownership hasn't changed all that much. Because before we started, the Braves were a pretty modestly owned team of both DraftKings and FanDuel.
Yeah.
And let's see if that is still the case. The Braves are projected for 6.6% ownership on DraftKings and 7.9% on FanDuel. So yes, they do qualify well below 10% owned. There's only two really popular stacks over on FanDuel. That is the Boston Red Sox against Brady Singer, and that is the Yankees against Tuki Tucson. Anything beyond that, you're somewhat contrarian over on FanDuel. And the Braves, that's the team I'm getting the most exposure to when I'm building on my lineups. They're not all that popular. So Mr. Cool Cam 97, my answer, top contrarian stack for FanDuel GPP is the Atlanta Braves. Do you feel differently, Neil? Is there another team that stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's the Braves for me also. They definitely stand out as the top contrarian stack. One other team that I will give a shout out to is the Rangers, coming in at 1.5% ownership, 4.6% chance to be in the top stack, and a little bit of positive leverage on 9% owned JP Sears. Kind of like that as well. So I think the Rangers would be my second stack, but I'm with you on Atlanta being the top contrarian stack.
Shout out to Red Skittles. He left us a super chat. Great trio on the old LBL with Jordan, Neal, and third leg Greg. Shouldn't be free. Cheap beers on me tonight, boys. Red Skittles, thank you very much. And I'm happy that we referenced me as third leg Greg. I had a disaster earlier in the day, Neil. I'm doing a show.
Did you almost lose your third leg? Sorry, go on.
No, I sat on my balls while I was doing my Rainmaker show earlier, and I was just
Ooh.
uncomfortable for like 25 minutes trying to readjust and trying to figure out like how I could situate myself and not be uncomfortable.
It's impossible to resituate yourself in that situation.
It was terrible.
You got to stand up, reset.
Can't take my pants off or anything. We got people watching the program. So anyway, thank you very much for the super chat, Red Skittles. We appreciate you and the support. And for everybody else who wants to support us, the easiest way to do it is just like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also you can check out our podcast channel, Stochastic Daily Fantasy. All of our content goes there in podcast form as well. And we're going to have some podcast exclusive content with the football season coming up as well. We're going to be doing some concepts that Loughran and I have been planning that I'm pretty excited for football. I think a lot of you guys are going to be in demand. I'm going to be excited when you see what's on the podcast channel. Looking through the pitcher exposure, 60% of Max Scherzer. We've got 20% of Clark Schmidt, which I think lends a little bit of credence to me saying that if you're playing one contrarian pitcher, would be him to get to. What else stands out to you here, Neil, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, I love that it is pretty spread out here. Nothing spread out. That is what stands out to me, is that we are just so spread out, particularly when you are playing contrarian lineups. I think like you want to be spread out, because generally if you have a contrarian lineup, it's not like those stacks are not going to be the ones that have the best odds of being the top stack. It's a little bit different today because we do have the Braves being fairly contrarian, but in general, like contrarian lineups are a little bit riskier. So I like having it more spread out when you are playing contrarian lineups. I like this quite a bit. This spread of lineups looks really good. Nothing, 20% Clark Schmidt on FanDuel, I guess, is coming in above the field a bit. But yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing that's standing out to me is we're doing contrarian lineups. We're getting a nice spread, and I like that.
All right, let's go ahead and do the same thing for DraftKings now. Let's build out contrarian DK lineups. And once again, I'm curious to see who it is that we end up getting to. Is going to be the same scenario. Are we spread out? Do we get to, the Braves in like 40% of lineups when we go contrarian? Let's see. Build out some contrarian lineups here, Jordan. Save 20 of them, and let's see what pops up. All right, 60%. Funny enough, 60% Max Scherzer, the exact same number that we got over on FanDuel. Situation a little bit different with us being able to roster two pitchers over on DK. but 45% of the Red Sox, 30% of the Yankees, 25% Pittsburgh. That's pretty interesting. Pittsburgh, where's the Pittsburgh ownership tonight? Pittsburgh ownership is
6%.
Yeah, 6%. So one of the reasons that the Pirates are popping up, even though they don't have the highest top stack odds for us, they do have a 15.3% chance of being the top value stack on the slate, which does rate them fairly well out over on DraftKings. You could play a Pirate stack with any pitchers of your choosing. And there we have our Atlanta Braves as well, 20%. So if you want to go contrarian on DK, the two teams that are standing out the most in the lineup generator are the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Atlanta Braves. Does that make sense to you, Neil?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they look really good. I mean, the Braves in particular on both sites look really good just from a leverage standpoint. They're not getting a ton of ownership. They look great. Pittsburgh surprises me a little bit, but they look fairly good at 5% ownership, 8% chance of being the top value stack. You can play those two together in a little bit of a game stack. And yeah, I think it makes sense.
All right, let's go and look at the individual player exposures. I did really quickly catch that Max Scherzer is our most rostered pitcher by a pretty wide margin here at 60%. Oh, actually, no. Logan Gilbert at 45%. That's a little surprising to me how much Logan Gilbert that we got to. Building contrarian lineups, and then a whole bunch of Red Sox in there. Rafael Devers, Tristan Cassis. We got Trevor Story back. Like the Red Sox have some guys on the team you forget even exist. Trevor Story, who was more fantasy relevant than Trevor Story just a couple of years ago when he was with the Colorado Rockies. You forget that he's with the Boston Red Sox, going to be making his season debut, coming back from Tommy John surgery. So we got Trevor Story in there. He's projected for 30% ownership. Yeah, lots of Red Sox bats, lots of Pirates bats as number one is a stack. But then also looks like a handful of these guys is one-offs too, which enables us to have more salary to pay up for guys like Max Scherzer. Let's see. Framber Valdez, 15%. Clark Schmidt, 15%. What else is notable to you there, Neil?
Bobby Witt showing up. I think he was showing up on DraftKings also, as I recall. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice spread once again. Like there's nothing that's really standing out to me other than we're spreading out, which I like to see in general. I like to mitigate the risk by spreading out my exposure. It is a lot of Pirates making it into these lineups, but I mean, we saw that with the stacks also. Looking at the salaries, looking like a lot of cheap guys. We're getting to a lot of cheap bats here, relatively cheap.
Yeah.
I guess as we scroll up there more. So some of the more expensive guys up top.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the more expensive bats were coming in the form of Aaron Judge, if I remember correctly. We also had, there was Aaron
Devers.
Judge, 25% of lineups. Then a lot of those Red Sox bats are expensive today. Devers is expensive. Trevor Story is expensive in his comeback game. Yoshida's always got a little bit of a price tag for him. So that's primarily where we're paying up for bats is with some of the Yankees and Red Sox chalk hitters. And two teams I believe I'm going to be underweight to when I finally upload my lineups. I do have one set here, but doing one final run with all our most updated ownership to see what ends up changing, if anything, for me. But anything else you want to talk about here, Neil? If not, we'll talk about our favorite stacks of the night.
No, I think that we've talked about. Jose Morris says, "Did I get at?" I was AFK. I don't know what that means. I think that he asked. He had the super chat earlier. Did we do? I thought Jose had the.
No, that's a different. So here's what might have happened.
That was Jose Morales.
I believe Neil that somebody Jose Morales left us a super chat. He asked a question if we read his super chat, and I believe you tagged the wrong person.
Okay, I see. I started typing Jose Mora and it went to Jose Mora. Okay, I see what happened.
Yeah, easy mistake. We see how that could happen from time to time. Go into Discord and see what questions we have in there. One of the perks of being a Stochastic Plus Platinum member is that you guys get access to our Discord and can ask us questions whenever you want, such as ZJ Lang said, Tyone versus the Mets or Rodriguez versus the Astros on DK, built around a Cub stack with Scherzer and Elias Diaz, plus Profar to pivot off Miley as they've gotten to him before. So he's got a choice here. 1v1, Jameson Tyone or Grayson Rodriguez, Neil. Who are we going to tell him to play?
Jameson Tyone or Grayson Rodriguez? Probably going to be Rodriguez for me. I don't think I played any Jameson Tyone. Yeah, I think I would go Grayson Rodriguez between those two. How about you?
Yeah, I'm also going to answer Grayson Rodriguez. Just more upside, really. We got a tie-on matchup against the Mets, which is really not a terrible one. We talked about the Mets and where they're at in this point in the season on last night's show. But Grayson Rodriguez is a young pitcher who has a lot of strikeout upside. If you're playing in tournaments, right, you want to capture as much upside as possible. And to me, Jameson Tyne is just kind of whatever. He's not a pitcher who has a massive strikeout upside, doesn't generate a whole bunch of Ks. Grayson Rodriguez was a great strikeout pitcher in the minor leagues. He's one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. He's been really inconsistent during his time at the big leagues. I'm underweight to him today, but if these are the two choices, I'm going to lean towards Grayson Rodriguez. The next question we have here is from Hef Love. Hef Love is saying, took second in the $12 single entry on the night slate last night, made up for not stacking Milwaukee on the main slate. Wants to know, do we like going back to Milwaukee tonight, or will they be overowned? I do like Milwaukee quite a bit. That's one of the teams I get the most exposure to.
I'm still very confused, Greg, because it was Jose Morales who left the super chat. It was Jose Morales that I added. I'm thinking, like, did Jose Mora say something else that I was supposed to respond to? I'm still lost on what the question was. But do you know? Slim came in and said, "LOL, Neil, you're not that old." So I got to ask you, Rick, did you know what AFK stood for?
Away from keyboard.
Oh, is that a common one? I feel like I'm pretty good in general with internet acronyms. I didn't know that one.
Not.
I'm not.
No, not really. Nah, I mean, like,
That's funny, Jordan. Yes, I know League of Legends.
Oh, all right. Turnabout is fair play. How about LMAO? What does that stand for?
Laughing my ass off.
All right.
I can go all day. All day.
Right. So he knows all of the ones that my parents send in texts.
Get the fuck out, Jordan.
All right.
Come on.
LMBO.
Laughing my butt off.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. All right. He's with it.
Yeah,
maybe
I'm with it.
All right. Maybe he's lying about his age and he isn't actually 50.
That's right. Well, somebody was saying the other day that I'm actually 30, and I'm going to that.
Oh, I strongly disagree with that one. Super chat here from Jorge. Oh, we got a couple of super chats that came in. We'll answer the other questions in Discord, but Jorge wants to know, what are the thoughts on a low-owned Dodgers stack compared to Atlanta or Texas? So for me personally, I have more exposure to both Atlanta and Texas. Different reasons, right? So Atlanta is the number one overall team in our top stack store, right? This is the team that we have projected with the best odds of being the highest scoring team, and also modest ownership. We were talking about before, only 7%. As for Texas, another team that's going under-owned, but there's another aspect to this too, which is JP Sears is projected to be fairly popular today. So you're getting access to a great Texas Rangers offense that you're also getting leverage against a very popular JP Sears, who's projected for 22% ownership. So when I look at the Dodgers, it's not to say that there isn't warrants to, getting exposure to them. I am currently at, actually, I don't have that much Dodgers, but I do think there's reason to get some. Just I can't make the same case for the Dodgers that I can for Atlanta. Atlanta being the team that we project to score the most fantasy points, and then Texas, a team that we have projected to be under-owned, and you're getting great leverage against JP Sears. So the Dodgers don't really stack up in either of those categories. So I get some exposure to the Dodgers, but not as much as I get to Texas or to Atlanta. For yourself, Neil, what are you going to be doing with the Dodgers?
Yeah, currently I have 8% Dodgers 5-man stacks. I'm comfortable with that. That seems, what do we have for ownership? I forgot. I moved everything to FanDuel, so I had my FanDuel stuff pulled up. Dodgers, we have
ownership going to the Dodgers. So it's a team that looks pretty good. They're super expensive, right? The Dodgers, you got a team that's fairly difficult to make 5-man stacks of. The same goes for the Atlanta Braves, but you've got the Atlanta Braves, Los Angeles Dodgers, comparable ownership. While the Dodgers have an 8.3% chance in our data to be the top scoring team, compared to an 11.4% chance for the Braves. And then, like I mentioned with the Texas Rangers, you're just getting all that leverage against JP Sears. So Dodgers, to me, they fall pretty distant third in terms of those expensive offenses.
But still good. But I agree with you, but I still think that they do have positive leverage. I just still think it makes sense to play them. But I'm totally with you that they're third behind of that group.
Chris Williams, our Apple friend, thanks for all the great content. You guys really do a lot, and it's appreciated. I'm only playing the turbo slate in DraftKings. It's gross. I mean, so much salary left over. How many bats versus pitchers would you be comfortable with? Let me go look at the turbo slate. The night slate or the turbo slate, Chris?
So the turbo is only 2 games. I assume that he does mean the turbo slate.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was asking about, he was saying that he's going to play some Clark. Oh, Wade Miley was who he was talking about. So yeah, I think he is talking about the turbo slate. On a 2-gamer, I open things up quite a bit. I think on a 2-gamer, I'd go maybe up to as many as 3. Like I wouldn't like force it in, but like in Fantasy Crunch, if I'm playing, also depends on how many lineups I'm playing, I guess. So like if I were playing 10 lineups, I would probably set it at 2. If I were playing 150 lineups, I would probably set it at max 3. If I were playing something in between, you'd have to kind of decide. I don't think I'd ever go more than 3 bats against my pitcher. But on a 2-game slate, you can certainly you should get a little bit weird because you don't want to run into like that's where you start having to worry about being duplicated or just having lineups that are one off from other people. It's still you're always going to have that kind of issue on a 2-game slate. But I open it up to like 2 or 3 against my pitcher on a 2-game slate. What do you think you would do, Greg?
I'm totally cool with 2. I think 2 is especially if I don't know how many lineups you're playing, Chris, but I would say the more lineups you're playing, the more apt you should be to build some lineups that have your hitters against your pitcher. Like I know for me, if I'm uploading lineups into our Sims tool on a 2-game slate where I'm playing, if I'm uploading 10,000 lineups, like I just have to build a bunch of them that have more lineups that have the batters against the pitchers. If you're just hand building one lineup, I would say I'd be comfortable with up to 2. If you're playing like 20 lineups, I would say I'd be good with 3.
Yep. Perfect.
And as far as leaving salary on the table for a 2-game slate, don't even worry about it. Leave whatever team, like get correlation, stack your hitters together, and don't even worry about the salary left on the table. It's totally cool to leave a bunch of salary on the table for a 2-game baseball slate.
He might mean the opposite of it. Like, do you force in leaving salary on the table? I never have, and honestly, I have not really examined what like the top pros are doing in terms of leaving salary on it. Like if they're forcing it in to avoid dupes on shorter slates, would be an interesting thing to look at, but it's not something I've ever forced in.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't built lineups for the 2-game slate, so it's hard for me to know exactly. And by the way, he said, I mean, only 2 SS as well. 2 SS. Neil, you're our abbreviation king over there. What is 2 SS?
2 SS is shortstop. 2 shortstops. Are there only 2 eligible shorts? Oh, wait, hang on.
Oh, that's okay. I understand. Okay, there we go. I wasn't able to really translate what it is that he was talking about for the 2-game slate. So yeah, there's only 2 shortstops available. I wonder what is the ownership. Are one of those shortstops? Do you have the ownership pulled up for the turbo slate by chance, Neil?
I do have the ownership pulled up for the turbo slate. We have 30% going to Anthony Volpe and 23% going to Tovar. That doesn't make sense if you can only play 2 shortstops, though.
Yeah, so it probably still needs to be updated one more time there. I was going to say just play the lower owned shortstop. There's a big difference between them, but yeah, to your point there, Chris, I mean, if there's only 2 shortstops, like obviously it's going to make the ownership even more concentrated for that 2-game slate. Don't worry about leaving salary on or don't worry about using all of the salary, but I don't think you have, for the sake of leaving salary on the table, like don't say like, oh, I have to leave 2,000 salary on the table or anything.
Yeah, I think I'm with you.
I would really just build your lineup based on whatever stacks you like best. And I wouldn't even think about the salary really. If it leaves a bunch of salary on the table, cool. If it doesn't, also cool. Let's see what else is he said you can't even use all the salary if you wanted to. So it's going to be a crazy duped lineup. The most expensive players at every position, that's going to be played like.
Yeah, don't play that lineup.
Yeah, don't play that lineup for sure. All right, let's see what else we have going on in Discord right here. Kenny Wayne asked us thoughts on Taillon on DK. I'm not really getting through a lot of Taillon. It's funny. 2 questions we got about Taillon. What did you end up with for Taillon exposure?
I got to 0 Taillon.
Yeah, I'm not really getting to him either. Boy, the people all want to play him, huh? Interesting.
If you want to play him, do what you want. Follow your heart. But
getting back to the question that we got from Clyde, he wants to know what we think of the Angels. He had asked that a while ago. And Angels are a team that I don't really have all that much exposure to today. Is this a team that you're prioritizing in any kind of way?
Hang on. I just realized So I do have interest in the Angels. Whether I actually played them, I did not. Looking at my 5-man exposure, I didn't play any Angels stacks today. I do think that they look good. So actually, when I was I drafted an Angels lineup earlier. I do think that they are interesting at low ownership. You're going to find some positive leverage there. 1% ownership, 4% chance of being the top stack. They're in Anaheim, so better than being in San Francisco. They do look really good in the top stacks tool. I think that if they're probably not the first lineup I go to, but yeah, being in Anaheim, Alex Wood, decent pitcher, but I'm happy to go to the Angels when you can get 4x odds of being the top stack versus ownership. How about you? Do you have any interest there?
So let's we've got
Or
some
are you
other
playing
questions. I just want to bang out some of the questions that we have here in Discord. I think that all works though. But Cleveland 27 said that he is leaving for the beach this weekend and he needs stripper money. So what is our favorite stack in 3 max today? The Atlanta Braves for me.
Yeah, Braves make a lot of sense to me. You say 3 max, so go to Braves. You could just play Braves, Rangers, Dodgers would make sense, to be honest, as a 3-man stack. Probably not the 3 that I would go to, because I would probably go to one that's like lower odds. But
he just wanted the one favorite stack.
All right,
I'm going
Braves. Braves. Yeah, go with Braves.
Justin Just Lock says you just joined the show. What stacks do you and I have the most exposure to? So I have one final sim that is running right now that I wanted to make sure I had all the freshest ownership in. So this is going to be finishing in like 1 seconds here. But I can tell you in the last run I did, the 3 teams I had the most exposure to were the Braves, the Rangers, and the Milwaukee Brewers. And I assume it's going to be probably some combination of the same. How about for you, Neil? What are the teams you are getting the most exposure to?
Yeah, so it is Braves number 1 for me, followed by. So I'm only playing 25 lineups today, so I have a number that I'm getting to 2 lineups of. I've got 2 of the Red Sox, 2 of the Dodgers. I actually don't have 2 of Texas, which I'm part of me wants to go back and redo that. But the Braves are my top, and then I'll go Red Sox and Cubs up there as well.
Yeah. By the way, I should say that not that this is like a mass amount or anything, but on my final run, I did end up with 3% stacks of the Los Angeles Angels here. So some of them I didn't really have much of before. But yeah, the teams I have the most of, I have 23% Brave stacks, 21% Ranger stacks, 19% Brewer stacks. That's really like the core of what my lineups are today. Sam Van Dam left us a super chat. I'm making tomato basil soup. Look at you. I don't know how else to respond to that.
Yeah, no, it's I've never made tomato basil soup, but I enjoy it.
All right, real quick, Neil, what's your favorite soup?
It might be tomato soup with grilled cheese. So I'm not really a soup guy. The soup has to like come with things that I can dip in it, some kind of bread. And my favorite thing to dip in it is grilled cheese. So probably grilled cheese and tomato soup would be my favorite soup experience. Do you have a favorite soup?
Matzo ball soup. I was brought up in a Jewish house.
Oh, sure. That makes sense.
Matzo ball soup. It's the nuts. It's the winner by a mile. Matzo ball soup is tremendous.
It doesn't have to be your favorite just because you're Jewish. Like I think I have Jewish friends who don't like matzo ball soup.
Well, kind of, because I think that I'm genetically engineered to have taste buds that are.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. It's terrific matzo ball soup. By the way, we have a question here from Kenny Wayne 256 wants to know what are our thoughts on the Arizona stack. Josh had mentioned them earlier as a sneaky play and wants to know what we think about Arizona as a stack. Not really getting to them. Not a team that's really in my portfolio significantly.
They do look good in the top stacks. Like I do think that they are an interesting call. I'm currently not playing any, even as a secondary stack, but I like looking in the top stacks tool. They make some sense. They're coming in with like 1% ownership, 3% chance of being the top stack on the board. Tough, it's not the best matchup with Julio Urias, but fine, not a terrible matchup. And there's positive leverage. Also a 2% chance of being the top $1 per dollar stack. So I don't hate it.
All right. Now let's go ahead and see, do we have any other questions to answer in Discord? We do not. So Neil, what is your favorite contrarian stack on the slate? If you're playing a team that is sub 5% owned today, what is the team you'd be going to? Sub 5%.
Sub 5%. I do actually, I like the Angels. Houston's coming in at only 3%. Once again, run into the issue with the Rangers. Sorry, the Giants look really good, but like I don't really want to play them. Oh, Texas is coming in at only 4%. Yeah, it'd be Texas for me. How about you?
Yeah, Texas. A lot of it has to do with the leverage that we're getting against JP Sears. And also, I'm kind of looking through my lineups and trying to figure out what I want to play in single entry, because my top projected lineup was a Braves stack, but I'm starting to think like, I like the Braves, right? 3 teams, once again, that I'm getting the most exposure to: Braves, Rangers, Brewers. So I'm kind of pick of those teams, who do I want to play in single entry? I'm thinking my best Rangers stack, because of the leverage I'm going to be getting off of JP Sears, where, he might be 25-30% owned in some of that single entry contest stuff. So I'm going to be rolling with the Rangers as my single entry stack. And with that in mind, I think they make a lot of sense as a contrarian team. Do you think that's also, if you were in my situation, playing one lineup and say the 121 single entry, considering the ownership on JP Sears, do you think the Rangers are the way to go, or should I be going with the Braves?
Yeah, I like that call. I like taking some, getting some nice leverage there, especially in the 121. I think that makes a lot of sense. I want to throw one more stack that I'm kind of have interest in is Seattle. Looks like they're just going a little bit under owned. I feel like they've got some dangerous hitters. I tend to like Seattle when they're not facing really tough pitchers. So I just want to throw that out as one more stack to mention that I think is kind of an interesting contrarian stack.
All right, Neil, you know what time it is?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do.
It's dong time. So Neil's about to do his secret method where he finds which hitter he believes is most likely to home run today. If anybody in chat wants to undercut Neil and give his answer, now is your time to go ahead and do so. Anybody in YouTube chat, you guys are more than welcome to get your home run picks. But right now, Neil and I are going to be doing ours. So the way I do my pick here is generally I look through my lineups to try to find out like, hey, who's a reasonable home run pick today that I'm also overweight to? And for me, there's going to be Ronald Acuna Jr. today. Get into a lot of Brave stacks. I've got Acuna in about 30% of my lineups. He's projected for 16% ownership. Give me Acuna to hit a homer today. Neil, who are you landing on as your favorite home run pick?
Hey, I just realized that I was on the wrong. Okay. I'm going to go with, wait, oh man, somebody just said, hang on. Let me see what chat has already said, because I got to go with one that nobody has said yet. I don't think anybody has said Juan Soto. Give me Juan Soto.
Yeah, we've got some of the ones in chat that are being thrown out here. Nicholas Robertson with Mookie Betts. We've got Juso Dashing went with a Devers Dong. We've got Louis 23 going Dan Vogelbach. We've got B-Funk saying James Outman. We've got another one. Oh, no, it's the same guy. We just said Mookie again. We've got Diablo Biscuit is going with Matt Olson. Oh, that's a bold one. Jake Swale is going Weimer. I would like Weimer. I've got a lot of Brewer stacks that I talked about that. Devin Neiman, he's going with Salvador Perez. Malucar, JD Martinez. Sotek's going with Judge and Stanton. And let's see, one final one here. Orton's Neckbeard went with Lamont Wade. Also separated his name out and said like Lamont as opposed to it being one name, Lamont.
Like the Mont. I like it.
Like it. Yeah, he should consider changing his name to that. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you have not done it yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck with all your lineups today. And don't forget to, if you want to get up and get a totally free Stochastic Plus Platinum package, sign up at BetMGM using the link we have below. 1 month free Stochastic Plus Platinum when you sign up using that link. Once again, guys, thank you very much for watching. Have a great night. See you back here tomorrow.